Gertz West here, reporting from Houston, Texas for Climate Desk. Now, one of the biggest uncertainties in climate science right now is the role of clouds. What better way to work that part out than flying right through them? That's what NASA scientists aboard this airplane think. Welcome to NASA's biggest airborne laboratory. You're coming with us today on an 8-hour NASA flight mission.
When you read these big IPCC climate assessments, what's the biggest uncertainty? There's two, right? The role of aerosols and clouds. Clouds is probably bigger than aerosols.
That is a piece of a puzzle that right now we are missing.
You can't get the models right if you don't understand the chemistry and the process.
Now we're being told we've got to get on. The doors are about to shut, so let's go aboard. Every time you turn on the weather, every time you hear a climate change prediction, that information has to come from somewhere. And it starts by getting sucked out of the air from planes like this.
So this mission is to try to understand the emissions from the surface, so mostly biogenic emissions, so from trees and other plants.
Right now we're flying to our very first part of this experiment on the DC-8. Over Arkansas, there's a particularly pungent bouquet of emissions that scientists are interested in measuring.
Well, these emissions lead to both aerosols and to molecules that both destroy and create ozone. So these are very important things to understand for climate studies.
How it will manifest itself, it will be in more accurate and more reliable predictions.
So what we're doing is taking a series of flyovers, each at a different level of the atmosphere, scooping up those emissions, testing them, and hopefully scientists are going to see exactly what's in this column of air all the way up.
The data that we collect in one flight can keep busy 60 scientists and students for 3 years, 4 years. We're still studying data from data collected 20 years ago.
In fact, this particular mission today is its most heavily equipped in its nearly 30 years of service. Each one of these consoles here is a specially equipped scientific instrument designed to collect all sorts of different data in real time.
And this instrument here tracks the sun.
We're looking at mist chambers. They're used to strip soluble gases.
This black line is the CO2. It's about 390 ppm right now.
We're putting these filters in the bags that we've got the aerosols that we trapped out of a certain amount of air. And so we're sampling up here about 150 liters a minute.
That ultimately flows back into the operational models. It flows back into what goes on TV every day.
Anyway, I got to get this sample going.
Yes, you do it. It's a busy man at work. We can't let him rest. Well, get this. We've just spent 2 hours crisscrossing this one cloud formation. In, back out again, back in again.
Then they grow, and we track them as long as we can, and then we let it go.
Even one cloud can hold a host of answers to the mysteries of climate change.
The patterns of, where the clouds are, what type of clouds we see, what kind of weather systems they're associated with it, that'll all be shifting in a shifting climate, in a world with climate change.
Then the big spark is this, is when we actually get the meat on the grill. And then it will be some time to process it.
go. Our favorite day of the week. It's Friday. How about it? Friday, May 23rd. So good to see you today. Welcome, welcome, welcome to this Friday edition of the Bill Press Show. Here we are live at our nation's capital and our studio on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. The House has already fled town. So has the Senate. President Obama, in fact, spending the night in Chicago. Nobody here but us chickens. But we're here with you on Free Speech TV. Here with you on our global video stream of TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV, spelled TAWKRTV, with the news of the day for you to chew on and spit out by giving us a phone call at 866-55-PRESS. Give us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. Good to have you with us today, and things that we've got to talk about include Secretary Eric Shinseki of the VA, embattled indeed, was on Capitol Hill yesterday meeting with Senator Dick Durbin. There are more and more Democrats and Republicans who are suggesting, if not demanding, that Secretary Shinseki resign. He told reporters he has no intention of doing so. He wants to fix the problems first, and he said this decorated war veteran is not the first time he has been under the gun. Meanwhile, at the White House yesterday, a big ceremony celebrating release of the Harvey Milk postage stamp, the first time in this country we have ever had a postage stamp dedicated to an openly gay person. Harvey Milk, of course, shot and killed by Dan White in San Francisco and San Francisco City Hall. And there are some complaints from some of the families of the victims of 9/11 that they have a gift shop at the new 9/11 Museum in New York. Is that the right thing to do? That and a lot more we'll be chewing on and debating this morning. Don't forget to give us a call at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful?
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university. And,
people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Happy Memorial Day weekend. Yes, it starts right here. Good morning, everybody, because it's Friday. It's Friday, May 23rd. All right, we love Fridays around the Bill Press Show. Our favorite day. We wake up on Fridays, man. The rest of the week, we just sleep through it. Snore through it.
Speak for yourself. I'm a little sleepy today, man. It's been a long week.
Man. Fridays. Love it, love it, love it. And we know you do, too. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Here we go. Starting another 3 hours of our little merry-go-round here in Washington, D.C. We'll spin the wheel, tell you what's going on, whether it's happening here in our nation's capital or around the country or around the globe. We're there. We're on it. We got it covered. We'll tell you what's going on. And you tell us what it all means to you, what you think about it. You know how to do so. If you are listening on the radio, on your local Progressive Talk radio station, or listening on the TuneIn app on Progressive Voices channel, watching us on Free Speech TV, or watching us on our video stream somewhere on the planet. Who do we say hello to this morning? We haven't said hello to Estonia for a long time.
Shout out to Estonia.
Shout out to Estonia.
Shout out.
On our video stream at youtube.com/TawkrTV, TAWKRTV. Whether listening or watching, you can give us your comments and get on the air by giving us a call at 866-55-PRESS, or just join us on Twitter at BP Show, on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Hail, hail, the gang's all here. Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy. Hello, hello.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, good morning.
Big plans for the weekend?
Memorial Day weekend, man.
Memorial Day weekend. The barbecue, huh?
Fire up the grill.
This is sort of the beginning of the barbecue season, isn't it?
This is the unofficial
official
start. Yeah, this is when you break. We should maybe fire up the grill later on.
We haven't fired up the grill for a long time.
It's been a rough winter. It's tough to get the grill going. We can fire up the grill later.
Okay, we'll fire up the grill.
I'll have to bring it in here. We'll get it going.
We all have all of our barbecue secrets, right?
Yes, indeed.
Every man has the secret to his successful barbecue.
That's right.
Mine is, her name is Carol.
Mine is beer.
Mine is margaritas.
I don't care what you cook on the grill.
Alicia Cruz is here, too. She's standing by to take your phone calls. Keep her busy all day. Just keep calling. Just over and over. Just keep dialing.
I mean, don't crank call her.
866-55-PRESS.
And if you do, be creative about it at least.
Yeah, right. And Cyprian Balding here on the video cam and the lights, the cameras, action. That's Cyprian's job, doing a good job. And, well, I was there at the White House the other day when President Obama, of course, came out to talk about Veterans Affairs right after his meeting with General Shinseki in the White House. That's my column for today, by the way. It's up or will be sent out soon.
Yep. It's not up yet, but it will.
I'm not sure what. Okay. Will be posted soon, and we'll send it out to all of our Twitter followers.
You got it. At BP Show.
At BP Show, right. It's all about General Shinseki and how I think President Obama should have fired him. But the point is, when he comes out in the middle of the day like that, he interrupts certain television viewing that certain people are not happy with Little did the president realize. Otherwise, I think he would have postponed his speech.
Oh,
If he
yes,
knew,
yes.
as Conan O'Brien pointed out last night, that he was preempting The Price is Right.
No, this week, Price is Right fans were upset when the show
yes.
was interrupted by a speech by President Obama. Yeah. Which is why today it was reported that Obama's approval rating has come on down.
People do get really upset with the soaps or the game shows or.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Don't mess with my stories, man.
All that quality daytime television.
That's what it is, indeed. All right, lots coming up today for a Friday. Susan Page will be joining us a little bit later in this hour. And then we've got reporters in from Yahoo News and Huffington Post, and also representatives in and writers in, researchers in for Think Progress and for Media Matters. All of that coming up. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories.
I'm going to mix up my cocktail while you
Mix up that Memorial Day cocktail. Yes, indeed. Go for it. Go for it.
Shaken, not stirred.
Just a couple of other stories out there for you. Well, let's start with drinks because there's a new study from the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry reveals that grape seed extract can prevent cavities. And you know what that means?
Red wine.
Red wine, baby. Red wine can actually be good for your teeth. It prevents cavities. It all has to do, again, with the extract from the grape seeds that comes out through the process of making wine. So there you go. Drink more wine for your health.
Well, my dentist was asking me last week, how come you've never had a cavity all this time that she's been treating me?
I'm a lush. I love the red wine.
But I want you to know white wine is also good.
Thank you, Dr. Press.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Press. Big news for Apple fans. If you buy anything through Apple's website, you could get free shipping on all online purchases from now through May 29th. They're billing it as a Father's Day promotion, so buy something for Dad now, get it to you on time, and pay nothing for shipping. Again, through May 29th. Normally, orders over $50 are free for shipping.
Yeah.
So if you buy something less than $50, and by the way, good luck finding something for less than $50 on that website.
Yeah. You're lucky if you could get a plug for your charger for $50.
So true.
Yeah, you really can't.
Very true. But look, if you do find a little something for Dad under $50 on Apple's website, it's free shipping. So
Is there anything you have your eye on, Peter?
No, I'm good. I'm set. I'm fine. I don't need anything. Thanks, kids. I know they're listening. And a scandal in the United States men's soccer team. The all-time leading scorer for the men's soccer team, Landon Donovan, was cut from the roster heading into the World Cup. Head coach Jurgen Klinsmann, that great American soccer coach, made the move. He made the announcement via Twitter and cut him from the team. So there is a huge scandal. People are wondering what the hell happened. But he hasn't been playing as well. But again, you have to ask yourself, why cut him when he's, again, the highest scorer in the history of men's
I hope you're impressed that this sports fan here, this non-sports fan, read that story this morning. Actually, it's interesting because he's like the greatest American soccer player of all time.
I'd say that's true.
And consider that. And but he's 34, which is hardly old, I think. And they said they don't think he'll be as aggressive and want it as badly as some of the younger players.
Yeah.
I mean,
34 is not old.
No.
But for a professional athlete, it's old.
But they just say maybe he just doesn't have the fire in his belly, almost, to use a political phrase. I mean, that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it does seem strange.
It's certainly a weird metric, right, to measure how you're going to have somebody on your team, whether or not they want it enough. But look, this is the coach. We'll see what happens to the team, but we don't have a great track record in men's soccer. I'm a big fan of women's U.S. women's team, but I never watched them then.
All right, you got it, Peter. Thank you. Yes, indeed. Well, I'll tell you, one of the biggest controversies these days. Have you, remember a week or so ago, President Obama went up to New York. He and the First Lady spent the night in New York, and they were there for the dedication of the 9/11 Museum at Ground Zero. It just opens to the public, I think, this weekend.
It just opened, yeah.
Just opened,
It just
yeah.
opened on Wednesday.
They were there ahead of time with the VIPs. Former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton were there with them. Former mayors Michael Bloomberg and Rudy Giuliani were there, as well as Bill de Blasio, the current mayor. And they had a private tour, and the president talked about what a very, very special place this is.
I want to express our deep gratitude to everybody who was involved in this great undertaking, for bringing us to this day, for giving us this sacred place of healing and of hope.
A sacred place of healing and of hope. But the New York Post reports that some of the family members, not all, but some of the family members of the victims of 9/11 are really upset because, yes, there is this museum with the names and the photographs of the victims. And by the way, I've been to Ground Zero. It is really an awesome, and it's a very powerful place to visit, and to see all those names inscribed around the side of that pool there. The museum was not finished when Carol and I were there last summer. It was under construction. But I'm sure that museum itself is very powerful. But in addition to all those artifacts and remembrances and photos and video, there is a gift shop and there is a restaurant. And some of the family members, again, are very upset. One of them in particular told the New York Post, quote, "To me, it's the crassiest, most insensitive thing to have a commercial enterprise at the place where my son died." And she's protesting this gift shop as well as the restaurant, and some others are as well. So the question is, starting this Friday morning, what do you think? Is it appropriate to have a gift shop at Ground Zero? Now, I guess so. Here are some of the things. Here are some things that are for sale that they're complaining about. Among the items for sale at the gift shop are New York Fire Department and New York Police Department T-shirts and caps. There are blankets that have the logo "United We Stand" on them, or the slogan "United We Stand." There are even New York Fire Department vests that you can buy for your doggy, I guess, or your cat, but they're doggy vests particularly. There are what they call survivor earrings that are made from trees that were on the site that were not destroyed, and they cut down those trees and they're, I guess, whatever, anyhow, making earrings out of them. And there are also, books and posters and photographs and, that kind of stuff that you normally find at a gift shop. And then there's a Danny Meyer restaurant there as well, so you can stop and have a snack. And a lot of people, again, are upset because of this commercialization of the museum. Again, your thoughts, your comments, is this appropriate? 866-55-PRESS. I got to say, deal with it, because on a couple of levels. Number one, this is who we are. I mean, I'm sorry, we commercialize everything. I mean, they're calling it the tragedy trade. And it is kind of, on the one hand, you got to admit, it's crass, it's gross. But you know what? If you go to the Holocaust Museum in Washington, guess what? They got a gift shop. It doesn't mean you're celebrating the Holocaust. They have a gift shop. They have caps. They have T-shirts. They have the insignia for the Army units that liberated the concentration camps. You go to Oklahoma City, the Alfred P. Mora building there, and that tragedy. There's a gift shop on the premises. And partly the reason is because these museums are expensive. They cost a lot of money to build and to maintain. The freight for the one at the 9/11 site at Ground Zero is $65 million a year.
Yeah.
They say 60 to 70% of that is going to come from proceeds from the gift shop or the restaurant. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to stay in business.
Right.
So it's sort of like, you want the museum, you want the memorial, somebody's got to pay for it somehow. I'll tell you what really offends me Have you ever been to St. Peter's in the Vatican? Man, ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. You know, you can buy rosaries blessed by the Pope, right? You know, you can buy shoes worn by the Pope. I don't know. I mean, you get off the plane. We just changed planes at the Rome airport last year to get our flight to Sicily, and the gift shops in the Rome airport are all Pope Francis books and posters and, you know, I don't know, maybe earrings. I wasn't looking for earrings, but so I just got to say, yeah, I understand why some people might be upset, but, you know, just deal with it.
I think that if this was a situation where someone's getting rich, right? Like if they popped up a McDonald's inside the 9/11 museum and they were selling a crass, you know, promotion or something like that, I think that everything that's sold in the gift shop that I've seen so far either informs the public on what happened there, which is important for generations moving forward. It honors those who served and did their job there and were heroes at the site. And nobody's making a ton of money off of this, right? Like nobody's getting rich off of selling these posters or books or videos or whatever at the store. And so you want to have a great museum or you want to have a great memorial that honors the day and honors the people that died there. Great. That's going to take a lot of money to have that happen.
It is. That's right. And this is one of the ways we raise income. Let me tell you something else. We went up to Ground Zero shortly after 9/11. I just remember it was still the middle of winter because it was damn cold waiting in that line to even get into that little church across from it. And you know, at the time, what were the hottest selling items in New York? Were New York Police Department and New York Fire Department caps. And everybody was buying them, and everybody was wearing them. Sweatshirts, hoodies, T-shirts, caps, that's a way of honoring those first responders there. Yeah. And the fact that stuff is for sale at this gift shop, I don't have a problem with it. I respect those people who do, but I just think they got to recognize that this is just basically par for the course for museums around the country, even those that commemorate a great tragedy. You got a problem with it? 866-55-PRESS. We'll take you on. 866-55-77-377.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You make it sound very easy to take these 90-degree turns in your career. You went from engineering to law. But there's an awful lot of people at that age who feel they're on a track, they've invested time in learning a career, and they need to see it through to the end, or maybe their parents are pushing them to stay in one route. What is your advice for a young person?
Stay away from your parents.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
My mom is a pretty spectacular human being. We essentially came to the United States as refugees. And that is when I really got to understand who my mom was as a person. Being a refugee in a foreign country, you would think that it would affect you so much. It was like my mom, nothing changed for my mom. What was really at her core and her center was always being with her kids and getting to spend time with them and making sure that they were okay and making sure that they could still go out and play soccer. I knew that if my goal was to go to Liberia and to work on economic justice so that, you know, kids could go to school and have access to a doctor if they have malaria, that if I bet on their moms, we win.
I think I just come from a lineage of kick-ass women is all I can say. My grandmother came to this country from Mexico as a single mom with 5 children. And I, have an amazing mother who had 3 children, was going to school, working full-time. I mean, almost my story. But she did that and got her bachelor's degree at 40. And so I had a great role model. When I came home and told my mom I was pregnant, her response to me wasn't, your life is over. Her response to me is, well, I want a plan. You need to, let me know what you're gonna do about this because you're now responsible for somebody else.
I was the first one in my family to go to college, and my parents were very proud of it. They both had to work. My mom in a factory and my dad in the supermarket, and I was their success story. However, on graduation day, they said, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be an engineer? You're going to be a businessman? What are you going to, a lawyer? I said, I'm going to join the Peace Corps. And they said, what? My parents were very much opposed to this, and it was very difficult.
How much pressure did they put on you?
Tremendous pressure. Up until we were leaving from O'Hare Airport for me to go to Peru, my mother questioning me, like, where is Peru? You've never been out of the country. What do you know? Do they have doctors? Do they speak English there? What are you going to eat? You like my cooking? I said, Mom, I'm going to be a pioneer. Why do you always have to be the pioneer? Let them do it. Let them come back, and then you go. I said, no, I want to be the first to go.
I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, so there was a lot of gang activity, and one of my friends actually was murdered on a basketball court when a 15-year-old child shot him in the back of the head. And I was just hopeless. And my mom actually, she brought me to a place of empathy for the kids who were involved in actually murdering him, because my mom sort of said, look, where do you think those kids are coming from? And then she said, so if you're angry about it, do something. Actually change the way this world works.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Some families upset about the gift shop at the new 9/11 museum at Ground Zero. I'm not. As I say, you go to the Holocaust Museum here in Washington, D.C., talk about something that should not be commercialized, and yet there's a gift shop there. And people come in, they want some remembrance from that powerful experience of going through the Holocaust Museum. Peter?
We're on Twitter at BP Show, Gene Starwin echoes some of the things that you said, says they have a gift shop at the Holocaust Museum. There's a gift shop at the Anne Frank House. There's even a gift shop at Auschwitz.
Yeah.
We checked that out, by the way.
Right.
That is true. They do have that there at Auschwitz. There's also just one other quick comment from Z says, sadly, this is what all museums have to do for financial support these days.
Yeah, no, it is indeed. I see your calls, and we're right up against the time here, so let's take a quick break, and we'll come back and take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. One other thing, I haven't been to Boston since the Boston Marathon, but I'll tell you one thing. If I went to Boston, I know I will see T-shirts, caps,
Boston
with
Strong.
Boston Strong,
Yeah,
right? And you know what? I want to buy one.
Yeah.
I would buy one. Absolutely. Kind of brings us together. Gift shop at the 9/11 Museum.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I talk to undergraduates and graduate students who are desperate to go out and start something and build something and be the one to come up with that silver bullet solution. And I just want to say, slow down.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis. Most of the people you're talking to who want to come into the social change space, are they prepared?
If you're early in your career, there's a couple of really important things to do. The first one is just to shut the hell up and don't talk for about 5 years and work really, really hard. The only way you're going to be given more difficult things to do is by solving the ones you're already given. And if you're somebody who's always complaining or wants to be promoted above where they really are, you can't learn enough to start to take on a greater pool of responsibilities.
Advice you would give a person coming out of college is go work for other people, make your mistakes on their dime.
That sounds like me, absolutely.
It does sound like you.
And you know who that came from is one of my board members, Eric Buttline. Eric had seen me start a few companies as a young kid. I mean, I started my first real company when I was 16. And Eric said, "Chid, do me a favor. I know you have this thing in your head that you think you're this great entrepreneur, but like go work for somebody for a little while and just learn how things are supposed to be done. And when you're done with that, let's have another conversation about, you know, your next venture."
And I think another thing to remember, and this is something that I've really only learned in the past couple of years, is that although the problems are urgent and so important for us to address, I need to have more patience. I'm not going to solve those problems on my own. You're not going to solve those problems on your own. I'm an apprentice in all of this. You know, I'm an apprentice in life. I'm an apprentice in problem solving. I'm not going to change the world until I'm at least 65. That's my goal at this point.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
Tune into the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
You got it 34 minutes after the hour now. Talking about what has become a big flap, particularly up in New York, generated a lot of media attention this week. They're calling it the Little Shop of Horrors. Some people, on New York Post particularly, has made a big sensation out of this, echoing the negative reaction of a lot of family members of victims from 9/11 who are upset that at this new museum on the Ground Zero site, it's right part of the site, right on the same plaza, if you will, of those twin pools, and around the side of those pools is etched the name of every single victim of all the different sites at 9/11, the Pentagon, Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and Ground Zero. And right to the side of that is this museum, and part of the museum is a gift shop and a restaurant. It's interesting, you don't hear so much flap about the restaurant.
Right.
But I mean, it seems to me if you're offended by the gift shop, you ought to be offended by the restaurant too. But it's more about the gift shop and the items that are for sale there. And should there be any gift shop at all? Some family members are saying absolutely not. 866-55-PRESS.
Tell me one thing, right, if you're opposed to this, that is too far or in poor taste or anything like that, right? Like, I haven't heard anything that I think is in poor taste yet, you know. You go to...
Maybe the earrings, but I don't know. I just can't relate to that.
Right. I mean, look, I'm not the type of person that would go in and buy something like that, right? Because I think that it's a little strange. However, I do understand if you're someone who was affected by this and you want to have something to remind you of it and your trip there and how it touched you, and if earrings are something that have a tie to the museum, and that's what it is. I don't think that's crazy.
I want to go up there and kind of document what's for sale, but some of the things I've read. I read this morning about a guy who went in and he's a dog lover, and he saw there's a book about rescue dogs.
Yeah.
The rescue dogs played a big role in this operation, right? So what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
I don't know. Sherry's out in Chicago, Illinois. Hello, Sherry.
Good morning. Glad you are here, that you're live.
We're here.
Good morning.
We're here.
I think it's a good idea. I have no problem with it at all. If incoming revenue is continuous revenue, so they can keep up the museum. So what the heck is the problem? It's a great idea.
You know, by the way, it's not cheap to get into this. It's $24 to get into the Ground Zero area. So people are paying tickets, but that doesn't cover the cost of all the maintenance and the operation of the museum, Sherry, right? So, you know, Sherry, I guess maybe the answer is if you didn't have the gift shop, you'd probably have to charge people $50 to get in, huh? Yeah.
You know, we've grown accustomed to...
Sherry, appreciate the call.
Yeah. We've grown accustomed to having really great, well-done, well-constructed, well-designed museums, memorials, experiences, right? I mean, there are some that are clearly better than others. And the reason that they're better is because there's more money put into them. They have higher operating costs. They're more involved.
Yeah.
And if you want that experience, you're just going to have to pay for it.
I tell you, there's something else I must admit, a little bias on my part that I guess I have to be just honest about, is that usually when I go to a museum, I go to the gift shop first.
Yeah, sure.
I know, I'm just being honest. Like the Natural History Museum down here.
Yeah.
It's got a great gift shop.
Oh yeah.
Downstairs.
Yes. Yeah, it's awesome.
Both sides of it.
It's awesome.
Carol and I walked down to see a fabulous new show. Andrew, I think, one of the Wyeths. Wyeth.
Okay.
Great painter, American painter. There's father and son, and this is the son. Anyhow, at the National Gallery last Sunday, we walked down to see it. You know, I went right to the gift shop. Yeah. I saw the show, but I don't know.
I can relate to that. Absolutely.
I like the gift shop. So.
Absolutely.
John is out down in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. Hello, John.
Hey.
Hey, what do you think? You got a problem with this?
No, I've never been to a museum that didn't have a restaurant or gift shop.
Yeah.
Neither have I. Yeah. I mean, it sort of goes with the territory, doesn't it?
That's right.
And I think you got to be maybe in good taste, right, John? But
absolutely, yeah. I mean, you know, the horror of war, you know, Civil War museums, whatever, you know.
Well, in fact, Peter, we were talking about other places. You were down at the World War II Museum in New Orleans. Thanks, John. Good to hear from you.
Yeah, we just got back from New Orleans a couple weeks ago, and on the rainy day, we went to the World War II Museum, which is a really, really cool museum. It's new. It's only a couple years old. And
I'll bet they have a gift shop.
They have a huge gift shop, and they have old war posters. I mean, remember, this is World War II.
Yeah.
A very deadly war and a costly war. They have old vintage kind of propaganda posters. They have little outfits, soldier outfits for kids to wear. They have, all the books and videos and notebooks and things like that. They have several restaurants on site. Right, that are themed to like dishes of the era and of the countries that were fighting in the war. So it's a fully themed experience: gift shop, restaurant, everything.
In fact, here from New Orleans is Gary. Hey, Gary, how are you?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning. What do you think?
Well, I think maybe y'all might be getting off on the wrong angle on this. The restaurant's there to make people comfortable while they viewing the site. The gift shop is for them to get a souvenir to remind themselves of the horrible catastrophe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody's there trying to make $1 million off of it. It's more of a convenience.
No, I think you're right, Gary, and I think that's where these people are see it in the wrong perspective, right? They don't recognize. I mean, the people who are buying souvenirs there, if you will, right, or a T-shirt or something, it's to help them remember what happened, right, and reflect on it. It's not. It doesn't. I don't think it cheapens the experience at all.
Correct. Yeah, as long as it's in good taste, I have no problem with it at all. To have a memento to bring home from the site to remind you of that horrible day,
Yeah. Now, Gary, have you been to the World War II Museum in New Orleans?
No, I haven't been down there yet.
Well, come on.
It's a good spot, Gary.
Well, I'm not into war.
I can't say I'm into war, but I'm into history, so it's
into big time. I mean, hell, I live in Southeast Louisiana. I mean, we got some buddies. But, no, I haven't been to.
All right. Well,
I do plan on going to it.
Okay. Well, give it a shot, Gary. Give it a shot. And thanks so much for getting up early for us this morning here. We wanted to.
No, I was just going to say, we had the experience with the World War II Museum, which I think a lot of people might have with the 9/11 Memorial. It's broken up into theaters, right? So you go and you look at different sections of the war and where the wars were fought. And after the Holocaust part of the museum, we just want to go sit down, get a drink, hang out, refresh just a little bit before we go on. And so if you don't, so they had a restaurant, they had a little soda fountain. We went, we sat down, we got a couple of drinks, we sat down for a second, and then we moved on.
Yeah,
I can't imagine what you would do if that wasn't there. If you just move on, it's just this barrage of really heavy imagery at the 9/11 Memorial and Museum.
Let's jump from New Orleans over to the West Coast, a place I spent 9 good years, Sacramento, California. Hey, David, how are you?
Hey, how you doing, Bill?
Hey, I'm doing good. So by the
way, it's 4:00 here, so I stayed up for your show.
You a thinker or a drinker?
That's right. We never know whether people on the West Coast are just getting up or just going to bed.
No, I'm a big fan of your show. So
hey, thank you, David. Thanks. Hey, I hope to be out there. By the way, on the 16th of June, they're going to dedicate the state party, Democratic Party's dedicating a new building in Sacramento.
Oh, good. I'll be there for sure. And so here's the thing. Here's my point. I don't disagree with anybody. Here's my point. Here's a very good point. We are a rich country. We have public parks, and they are taxpayers paid. So I don't understand. You don't see like a memorabilia store in a park when we can actually, if the taxpayers can pay for parks, why can't the taxpayers pay for this? You understand? Because there's millions of parks all over the United States.
No, I think that's a good point. By the way, I just have to disagree with you. I haven't seen, and I've been to a lot of them, I've never seen a national park without a gift shop. Right?
Yeah, but
or without restaurants.
Yeah, absolutely. No, they do.
They all have those, which is good because spend a lot of time there. People need to, a place to eat. But I think the answer, David, is because, and I get your point entirely, and I think it'd be great if that museum were a public museum, but like a national site. Why wouldn't it be? I mean, it should be a national monument. But I think it means, David, they'd have to raise taxes or something to pay for it.
Right.
Right?
Right. No,
I see your point. I mean, I see your point, but the fact is that, all these public parks in my neighborhood and all this kind of stuff are paid by the taxpayer, and they have to keep it up by the taxpayer. So why should not this be included part of the taxpayers as well? I mean,
let me tell you, you would, if you propose that, you got my vote. But the fact is, it's not, right? And there's just maybe not enough money for all of them. You can't fund every museum, but certainly if we taxpayers were ever to fund one, I would think it would be 9/11.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absent that, then you have to have a gift shop. All right. Susan Page, she's probably been up there. We'll find out whether she's been at this gift shop. She picked up when she went up there to New York. Susan Page is the Washington bureau chief for USA Today, joins us next.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found in the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
11 minutes before the top of the hour, President Obama doing something very unusual last night. He actually spent the night at home.
What?
In Chicago. Said he had to go out and water the plants. You know, we all know what that's like when you're away too long. Susan Page keeps track of all important events like that here in our nation's capital for for USA Today, Washington Bureau Chief. Hey, Susan, how are you?
Hey, Bill, good morning and happy Memorial Day weekend.
Happy Memorial Day weekend, yeah. You guys going to get out of town for the weekend?
As soon as we can. I just have to get off the phone with you.
All right. We'll make this real quick.
Yeah, hurry up, Bill.
Tell Carl he can start the engine. He can just run out. So I'm sure the president was glad to get out of town and get away from the VA for a while, huh, Susan? How's that going?
The VA, that is, I think, an extremely serious situation for the president. I think unlike something like Benghazi, which seems very political, this VA controversy goes to some basic questions about the competence of his administration.
It's real, right? I mean, it does affect real people. And while the problems with the VA date probably from the beginnings of the VA, right? I mean, some of this stuff reportedly that reportedly happened in the last 6 years, right? On his watch.
Right. Well, I mean, we've had decades of stories about backlogs at the VA and bureaucracy at the VA, and of course, it's a huge organization. And we've had this flood of new veterans coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan that have really tested the system. But, one thing, when you're in your second term, it's hard to blame things on your predecessor. Your guys have been in charge for 5 years. I interviewed former Senate Majority Leader Bob Dole yesterday.
I was going to ask about
this
that,
issue.
Right.
No one has more standing on veterans issues.
You're right.
He does.
Absolutely.
And he was anguished about it. That's another thing about this issue. It doesn't ever, almost every issue in Washington splits down partisan lines. This one really doesn't.
No. So, does Shinseki survive?
I don't know, but because we didn't think Kathleen Sebelius would survive, right?
Right.
How many times were there stories about how she was on her way out? So it's possible, but I think it's difficult because he's been there since 2009. And because he has not conveyed, I think, the kind of urgency about addressing this, at least publicly. He's a very reserved man. It may be his persona, but he hasn't conveyed that sense of urgency that I think a lot of Americans would like to see.
It's hard for me to believe that he would survive. I mean, it seems to me that you mentioned Kathleen Sebelius. This may be the MO, right, for this president.
Yeah.
Is leave him there long enough to come up with some fix, at least temporary, and then he goes out the door the same way Kathleen Sebelius did.
Right, and maybe that's the respectful way to proceed because he's not accused of wrongdoing and that he stole something or lied about something. It looks as though there are management problems there that have affected veterans, and we know there are reliable reports that some veterans have died while waiting for care. And that's just something that's unacceptable to Americans.
Did Senator Dole have any comment about Shinseki's leadership?
Senator Dole is 90 years old, and I went to interview him originally, and part of the interview was about his kind of farewell tour to Kansas that he's doing.
Yes.
He was the person who introduced Shinseki at his confirmation hearings in 2009, called him an American hero. They are both disabled vets. And so when I asked him if General Shinseki should be replaced, he answered with some pain, and he said that he thought that we should wait and get this report back from the administration, and that he shouldn't be replaced before then. But if the report showed that he didn't do his duty, that yes, he should be replaced. But this was not that kind of facile call for a resignation that you see sometimes on Capitol Hill. This was obviously a tough one for Senator Dole.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know they're very, very close. And I think that's part of the reluctance on Shinseki. Everybody knows, he is an American war hero, right?
Yeah.
And a disabled veteran. And as the president said in our briefing the other day when he came in the briefing room, nobody cares for American veterans more than General Shinseki, all of which is true.
Yes.
But that doesn't necessarily mean, that he's done the best job at the helm.
That's right. Or that you don't need, we've all been at organizations where there are times when you need new, fresh leadership.
Yeah.
That's got to be a tough job, and he's been doing it now for more than 5 years.
All right, Susan, the traffic is light on the 14th Street Bridge now. You can
Hightail it.
You can make it in the Bay Bridge as the traffic is moving there too. So get on your way. And
hey, happy summer.
All right, that's right, happy summer. Have a great weekend. Talk to you next week. Susan Page, head of the Washington Bureau Chief for USA Today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Bauhaus was one of the most definitive design movements of the modern age, reaching its peak between the two world wars. The word Bauhaus, loosely translated from German, means house of construction or school of building. Bauhaus was a new type of art school. Historically, European art academies taught each design subject separately. The Bauhaus offered foundation training in many art and design disciplines. They believed in variety. Understanding mass production was part of the curriculum, and the school sought to develop students who could unify art with craft while embracing new technology. It was also the beginning of the art school as an alternative way of life. Germany at that time was a pretty conservative place. And before the Nazis said "Nein" to the Bauhaus, it was arguably the most celebrated art school in the world. Bauhaus thinkers believed the world needed to be fundamentally rethought. Unnecessary ornamentation was out. Minimalism was in. Good design required simplicity and geometric purity. One of the best known icons of Bauhaus design is the cantilevered chair. Designed by someone named Breuer, it was inspired by the steel tubes of his bicycle, and ultimately led to the first lightweight, mass-produced metal chair. Despite his success, Breuer concluded that eventually chairs would become obsolete, and everyone would soon be sitting on supportive columns of air. Bauhaus was all about innovation and inspiration. Nowadays, Bauhaus influences can be seen everywhere, from road signs and graphic design to big windows and even bigger buildings. In architecture, the international style, as it became known, influenced skylines the world over. Bauhaus was about ideas, reform, exploration and vitality, about making more tidy sense of the rapidly evolving world around us, and giving us more cool stuff for our apartments.
Tune in to the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, Matt Gertz from Media Matters here at the top of the next hour. Peter.
Sad news for Republicans.
Oh, no.
It is official. Las Vegas will not be the site of the Republican National Convention.
It's sad news for Democrats.
It's sad news for Democrats and sad news for hard party Republicans. We're down to 4 finalists now. Those are Dallas, Cleveland, Denver, and Kansas City, Missouri.
I wanted them to go to Vegas because Democrats were going to put spies in every strip bar in Las Vegas to get pictures of those Republican delegates at the strip bars in Vegas. Damn it, we're not going to have that fun. That was not fair.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door.
but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Go, our favorite day of the week. It's Friday. How about it? Friday, May 23rd. So good to see you today. Welcome, welcome, welcome to this Friday edition of the Bill Press Show. Here we are live at our nation's capital and our studio on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. The House has already fled town, so has the Senate. President Obama, in fact, spending the night in Chicago. Nobody here but us chickens. But we're here with you on Free Speech TV. Here with you on our global video stream of TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV, spelled TAWKRTV, with the news of the day for you to chew on and spit out by giving us a phone call at 866-55-PRESS. Give us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. Good to have you with us today, and things that we've got to talk about include Secretary Eric Shinseki of the VA, embattled indeed, was on Capitol Hill yesterday meeting with Senator Dick Durbin. There are more and more Democrats and Republicans who are suggesting, if not demanding, that Secretary Shinseki resign. He told reporters he has no intention of doing so. He wants to fix the problems first, and he said this decorated war veteran is not the first time he has been under the gun. Meanwhile, at the White House yesterday, a big ceremony celebrating release of the Harvey Milk postage stamp, the first time in this country we have ever had a postage stamp dedicated to an openly gay person. Harvey Milk, of course, shot and killed by Dan White in San Francisco and San Francisco City Hall. And there are some complaints from some of the families of the victims of 9/11 that they have a gift shop at the new 9/11 Museum in New York. Is that the right thing to do? That and a lot more we'll be chewing on and debating this morning. Don't forget to give us a call at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
Grunt work. Love it, hate it, useful, not useful.
Necessary.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
I will say that I think is a challenge for anyone, especially the new workforce as they come in, is the ability to accept grunt work with grace.
The most boring, awful details are the most important elements of doing this work. From the way you save names in your Rolodex to the way you bank and you deposit checks. The truth is, this work isn't glamorous, it's rewarding. You don't go into this for the glamour, you go into it for the impact. And so it takes that determination to do the scut work to actually get anywhere.
It can be really challenging in a first job for someone who's coming out of finishing school to have the enthusiasm that they do to make the type of social impact that they've dreamed of. And now they're here in this first job and all of a sudden they're shouldered with all this grunt work. And they don't understand and they don't get it and they're resentful.
Talk more about the power of answering phones.
Sure, I did that myself, took out the trash, cleaned offices when I had to, and it's all good. There's power in being a good team player and in being somebody who sometimes has to support other people's leadership before you get to have your own moment in the sun.
Is it hard to wait?
It is absolutely hard to wait, especially if you're an alpha female like I am.
I think grunt work can help a new employee build trust internally and teach them the nuances of how an organization is run so that they can have a real good sense of what HR is doing, what finance is doing, what all the other departments are, and that actually makes them a better employee in the long run.
So in my role on a daily basis, I literally can be looking at a new venture in software. We could be looking at a microfinance deal. I could be making coffee, taking out the trash, and riding a tractor on any given day.
Have you found people who thought it was demeaning that they were given this job, work in the front office and make the coffee when they graduated with all A's from this great university? And,
people like that just don't last very long in our world. If your approach to life is that, you're so smart and you're such a fabulous entrepreneur that you can't understand why people aren't giving you opportunities, it's really hard to advance.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Memorial Day weekend, it starts right here. Good morning, everybody. What do you say? Friday, May 23rd. So good to see you, and welcome. Welcome to The Bill Press Show. Coming to you live from our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and our studio on Capitol Hill, just down the street from the United States Capitol building. We'll tell you what's going on at this end of Pennsylvania Avenue, and the other end as well, the White House and the Capitol. We've got it covered, but not just what's happening in Washington, all around the country, all around the globe, but we have our reporters on the scene, every one of our worldwide bureaus around the globe, staffed this morning, just sending us all the information on what's going on so that we can bring it to you. And then you can tell us what you think about it all. 866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number. And you reach us on Twitter, of course, at BP Show, and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Peter Ogburn and Elisa Murphy leading up our team this morning. Hello.
Hey, good morning. Happy Friday.
I know.
Ready for Friday.
Why is everybody so happy to see Friday here?
No idea.
I just hate Fridays because I like working so much. I have to take the next 2 days off.
And especially when it's a Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, no, I have to take the next 3 days off. Oh,
several days off. It's going to be a while before we see each other again.
Sad.
Start feeling like Congress.
Well,
Alicia Cruz has the phones covered. Alicia and Cyprian Bolding, a videographer, keeping us looking good on Free Speech TV, because we're not only coming to you on your local progressive talk radio station. Thank you for being there. We're not only coming to you on the TuneIn app, Progressive Voices channel on the TuneIn app, which is free. Download it and enjoy it. We're also coming to you on Free Speech TV. That's why we need Cyprian. And on our video stream worldwide at youtube.com/TawkrTV, TawkrTV. And you've heard me say many times that we on the left, we progressives suffered for a long time because we did not have anybody on the left who was watching the media, watching Fox, listening to Rush, and rebutting their lies and telling us the truth as opposed to the lies that we hear from that side. Well, we now have Media Matters. Media Matters for America doing a great job at that. They listen to Rush. They watch Fox, so we don't have to. Matt Gertz is the Deputy Research Director for Media Matters, joining us in studio this morning. Hi, Matt. Nice to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Thanks for all the good work you do over there. Been there many times. Been there from the beginning with David Brock, so it's a great operation.
Well, we appreciate that.
And MediaMatters.org is how you find it. Now, here's one thing. I'm sure you guys are going to be all over today. You know, we had the whole Donald Sterling flap. Donald Sterling now thrown out of the NBA. The question is, will all the owners vote now, or enough owners vote to throw him out of the NBA? Well, we're not sure about Mark Cuban's vote. because he said some pretty outrageous things. And yesterday, he just added to it. Here is Mark Cuban now on. He's not defending Donald Sterling, but it sort of sounds like he is, in the sense the point he's making is, well, we're all racist when it comes down to it.
I mean, we're all prejudiced in one way or the other. If I see a black kid in a hoodie and it's late at night, I'm walking to the other side of the street. And if on that side of the street there's a guy that has tattoos all over his face, white guy, bald head, tattoos everywhere, I'm walking back to the other side of the street.
Give me a break. What an idiot. Yeah, I mean, by the way, Trayvon Martin.
I mean, yeah.
This guy thinks
the
before he opens his mouth.
The comparison to that is so
just pretty
bad.
Disgusting.
And look, there's a real conversation about prejudice in sports and prejudice among people, forward-thinking people, and how they were raised and what they grew up around and what they know and what they struggle with. But to say that if you see a black person wearing a hoodie,
automatically, right?
And I think that the problem that he's going to run into is, I don't know if you guys remember, but right after the Trayvon Martin shooting, there was an incredible amount of activism from NBA players,
yes, absolutely,
including all of the members of the Miami Heat.
That's true.
Putting on hoodies for a group picture. I mean, that is language that is going to resonate with the players that Mark Cuban pays and whose support he needs to some extent.
So the basic he's saying, if he's walking down the side of the street and he sees one of his players on the same side of the street, he's going to cross the street.
Unless it's Dirk Nowitzki.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Oh, God. You know what? He's worth a gazillion dollars, right?
Yeah, he's printing
and he's got the team, and he's got to be. Just shut up.
Exactly.
Yeah, just like we said about Pat Sajak yesterday. Just shut up.
Just shut up.
Enjoy your money. Yeah, we don't need to hear from philosopher Mark Cuban. Okay, we got lots of media stories to get into with Matt Gertz here at the top of the hour. A little bit later, we're going to be joined by Zach Ford from Think Progress. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news.
We got to start with the big stories.
That's right. That's right. Well, we'll start with the media story because a huge get for NBC News. Brian Williams went to Moscow and interviewed Edward Snowden. It is an interview that's going to air next week. People were a little curious as to what was going on when Lester Holt was anchoring nightly news on Wednesday night. It turns out Brian Williams was on his way to Moscow to try and get that interview. It has been taped. It's a done deal. They released a couple of photos from the interview. I'm sure we'll start to see some video come out, but the full interview is Wednesday of next week.
That is a huge get. I wonder if they paid for that interview.
It's a good question.
Do they still pay for interviews?
I can't imagine that they would. Not.
I doubt
nightly
it.
News,
I doubt it too.
Yeah, nightly news. I don't think probably would.
Yeah.
It's not TMZ.
Good for Brian.
If you want to go to Disneyland in Los Angeles, or just in Anaheim, I should say, you're going to be paying a little more money. The price of a single-day ticket went up $4 last weekend. It raises about once a year, and it's usually about a $4 hike. So if you want to go one day, one single-day ticket, it is now $96 to get into Disneyland. That price has doubled since 2003.
Wow.
Yikes.
That's a lot.
Not going there for vacation.
And by the way, I having worked at Disney World in a former life.
What was that costume you wore again?
Was it,
I was the only person that played Goofy without having to wear a mask. So this is just to get into one park one day, but then they sell all these other upcharges, right? So the packaging of the different parks you could go to and the jumping from park to park. So I mean, you could easily spend $180.
Did you get free rides?
Yeah, the rides are free.
Okay.
I'm assuming you have to wait in the line for them.
Yeah,
But
right.
They're free. Yeah.
It's expensive for a family of 4.
It's not good. I've done the family of 4 trip to Disney World.
Yeah.
It's not a vacation, man. It's not a vacation. Let's talk sports to the NHL, the National Hockey League. They had their playoffs continue last night. The New York Rangers and the Montreal Canadiens. Canadiens in a must-win situation. They were down 2-0, and last night they got that win. It took overtime for them to win 3-2. That series is even, or is now Rangers 2 games, Canadians 1 win. So
all right. So don't say we don't care about hockey. We just
got
gave
the
you
hockey story.
Yes, indeed.
There you go.
All right. Well, Matt, the right-wing media has been having a field day for the last, year and a half on Benghazi, and it doesn't let up. Is this the horse that they plan to ride all the way through the November midterms? Is that what's going on?
And past that, I think. I mean,
really?
if Hillary Clinton ends up being a presidential candidate, then we're going to be hearing about Benghazi at least through the 2016 election.
Right.
This is sort of a pattern that the right wing has. They find these stories, they latch onto them, and they, ride them forever. You might remember that Whitewater lasted, from 1993 through, the Ken Starr report didn't come out until 98. So, these stories have a way of lasting forever, and Benghazi's one of them. And I think that's a shame because I think that, 4 Americans died in Benghazi. It was a serious issue, and it's become a 16-month conversation about the talking points that Susan Rice used in a series of Sunday show interviews in September of 2012, which is kind of ridiculous.
Right. The idea that a top administration official or any, leading Washington figure would have talking points before they go on a Sunday morning talk show is hardly unusual.
I really would love to see the John McCain talking points, right? Because he's on a Sunday show basically every week, and I assume that
at least one, if not all 3. Yes,
think.
every week. Yeah,
and you'd imagine that Key and Lindsey Graham and all the rest of these guys aren't going out onto the Sunday shows without some sort of preparation. I think that at the end of the day, what we've seen with all of these talking points is Susan Rice did the best she could with what she had, which was talking points from the CIA that said the attack in Benghazi erupted out of a demonstration that was against an anti-Islam video. Now, was there reason to think that the attack was in regards to this video? Yes, there was, because there had been an attack on the embassy in Cairo earlier that day in regards to the video, and there were more that were erupting for the rest of the week.
World.
Yeah, throughout the Arab world, I think 17 countries had some sort of anti-American demonstrations in response to this anti-Islam YouTube video. And so, yes, Susan Rice said because she had these CIA talking points that was what happened, and that ended up being not entirely true.
So the latest Benghazi committee is just a way of this special committee appointed by created by John Boehner is just a way of keeping this issue alive.
I think so, yes. And, I think it remains to be seen to what extent the select committee is going to be the only outlet for these sorts of attacks, because certainly Darrell Issa seems to want to continue to have Benghazi investigations through his own committee, through the Oversight Committee. But certainly this will be another outlet for them, another hook for stories, which is what they're basically looking for. If you want to keep something in the national conversation, then you need to be constantly creating some sort of news. And calling various Obama administration officials before yet another committee is a way to do that. It's a way to pop the story.
Plus, they've kind of run out of gas on the IRS, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think they try to revive that one every once in a while as well, but there just doesn't really seem to be that much there. Most of what's come out more recently has shown that there was targeting of liberal groups as well as conservative groups, and that the sort of overall conspiracy that they were trying to weave, the conservative media, that this was all about the White House trying to destroy the Tea Party, doesn't really seem to add up.
What I always wonder is the extent to which this obsession almost on the part of the right-wing media on these issues, as you say. I mean, the latest is the VA, right? And there's some substance to the VA, but they're just they want to use it as another way to attack President Obama, right?
And they always go too far. They always overreach somewhere.
But to what extent are they effective? I mean, where I find that they're very, very good. What they're very good at is they'll start the dialogue, they'll start the rumors with this massive wall-to-wall coverage on Fox, right, with the most outrageous, and then it gets picked up by candidates, it gets picked up by members of Congress. Then they'll schedule hearings in the Congress, and that's how they keep these things alive.
Sure.
Right?
We have this theory that we call the Fox cycle, which is that there is
That's what I'm getting at, I guess. Yeah.
This general process that happens where Fox finds this random story, normally from some fringe website or some fringe theory from somewhere. They report on it. They start going wall to wall with it. And then they start asking, why isn't the mainstream media covering this? Why aren't they covering this conspiracy? And then eventually the media does, and then sometime after the media picks it up, the whole thing gets debunked. And then the media, for some reason, doesn't seem to realize that they keep getting played like this, and they keep returning to the same source, and they keep being willing to push these stories. So I think that's one factor. I think as you say, the way that Fox is intercut with various conservative candidates and conservative members of Congress is a big factor. I think the Dinesh D'Souza incident that we've seen play out over the last 6 months is a great example. Dinesh D'Souza, you may remember, is he is a longtime conservative media figure. He put out a documentary about President Obama called Obama's America, which details all of his terrible things that he's done. And then he was indicted for illegal campaign contributions. He was basically issuing campaign contributions in other people's names in order to evade campaign finance laws. And instead of saying, oh, yeah, I did something illegal, he said, I am being targeted by the Obama administration. And conservative media started rallying around him and took it up as a cause celeb. And then, members of Congress ended up issuing a letter to the DOJ asking for them to explain why this great man was being targeted with an investigation and, whether this was political persecution. And then, more recently, he has pled guilty.
Yeah. 2 days ago, he came out and said, yeah, I did it.
Yeah, I did it.
And I knew it was wrong, but I did it anyway because I thought I could get away with it. Yeah. But I'm still waiting, by the way. I'm still waiting for Rush and Sean Hannity and Laura Ingraham, and we had Neil Cavuto too. We played the montage of all those people claiming that Dinesh D'Souza was a target of the Obama's enemies. I'm waiting for all of them to apologize.
You'll be waiting for quite some time
for President Obama. They haven't done it yet? No, they've had 2 days.
Not that I've seen. No.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay. Matt Gertz with us here from Media Matters on a lot of the Fox cycle. I love that. It really is, and people fall for it. And we need a cycle on the left of this. Maybe we could start it. The press cycle.
I like
22 minutes after the hour. We'll be right back. Your call's welcome at 866-55-PRESS.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You make it sound very easy to take these 90-degree turns in your career. You went from engineering to law. But there's an awful lot of people at that age who feel they're on a track, they've invested time in learning a career, and they need to see it through to the end, or maybe their parents are pushing them to stay in one route. What is your advice for a young person?
Stay away from your parents.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
My mom is a pretty spectacular human being. We essentially came to the United States as refugees. And that is when I really got to understand who my mom was as a person. Being a refugee in a foreign country, you would think that it would affect you so much. It was like my mom, nothing changed for my mom. What was really at her core and her center was always being with her kids and getting to spend time with them and making sure that they were okay and making sure that they could still go out and play soccer. I knew that if my goal was to go to Liberia and to work on economic justice so that, kids could go to school and have access to a doctor if they have malaria, that if I bet on their moms, we win.
I think I just come from a lineage of kick-ass women is all I can say. My grandmother came to this country from Mexico as a single mom with 5 children. And I, have an amazing mother who had 3 children, was going to school, working full-time. I mean, almost my story. But she did that and got her bachelor's degree at 40. And so I had a great role model. When I came home and told my mom I was pregnant, her response to me wasn't, your life is over. Her response to me is, well, I want a plan. You need to, let me know what you're gonna do about this because you're now responsible for somebody else.
I was the first one in my family to go to college, and my parents were very proud of it. They both had to work. My mom in a factory, my dad in the supermarket, and I was their success story. However, on graduation day, they said, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be an engineer? You're going to be a businessman? What are you going to, a lawyer? I said, I'm going to join the Peace Corps. And they said, what? My parents were very much opposed to this, and it was very difficult.
How much pressure did they put on you?
Tremendous pressure. Up until we were leaving from O'Hare Airport for me to go to Peru, my mother questioning me, like, where is Peru? You've never been out of the country. What do you know? Do they have doctors? Do they speak English there? What are you going to eat? You like my cooking? I said, Mom, I'm going to be a pioneer. Why do you always have to be the pioneer? Let them do it. Let them come back, and then you go. I said, no, I want to be the first to go.
I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood, so there was a lot of gang activity, and one of my friends actually was murdered on a basketball court when a 15-year-old child shot him in the back of the head. And I was just hopeless. And my mom actually, she brought me to a place of empathy for the kids who were involved in actually murdering him, because my mom sort of said, look, where do you think those kids are coming from? And then she said, so if you're angry about it, do something. Actually change the way this world works.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, when you hear so many Fox News hosts attack Media Matters, Media Matters is doing a good job, thanks to the work of good people like Matt Gertz, who is Deputy Research Director. The latest, we just have about a minute, Matt. Thanks so much for coming in again. The latest, I guess, is Boko Haram, right? Mm-hmm. So now this kidnap of these girls in Nigeria, we're going to blame it all somehow on President Obama?
Yeah, it was interesting because it took the right-wing media a very long time to decide that they cared about this kidnapping in any way at all. They were very silent for a very long time. Fox wasn't covering it. And then all of a sudden, they found a way to blame Hillary Clinton. And once that happens, they're off to the races. The claim that they're making is that basically the reason that all of this happened is because Hillary didn't name Boko Haram a terrorist organization early enough. Of course, it was named a terrorist organization before the kidnappings actually happened, which would seem to undermine the whole thing.
But if she had only done it earlier, I'm telling you. Okay, Media Matters. MediaMatters.org. Thank you so much, Matt. Thanks. All right.
Thanks for having me.
Hello to all of our good friends over there.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I talk to undergraduates and graduate students who are desperate to go out and start something and build something and be the one to come up with that silver bullet solution. And I just want to say, slow down.
Our social entrepreneurs are people who have been on the front lines of social change. I've learned so much from talking with them. This is Cafe Impact, and I'm Jonathan Lewis.
Most of the people you're talking to who want to come into the social change space, are they prepared?
If you're early in your career, there's a couple of really important things to do. The first one is just to shut the hell up and don't talk for about 5 years and work really, really hard. The only way you're going to be given more difficult things to do is by solving the ones you're already given. And if you're somebody who's always complaining or wants to be promoted above where they really are, you can't learn enough to start to take on a greater pool of responsibilities.
Advice you would give a person coming out of college is go work for other people, make your mistakes on their dime.
That sounds like me, absolutely.
It does sound like you.
And you know who that came from is one of my board members, Eric Buttline. Eric had seen me start a few companies as a young kid. I mean, I started my first real company when I was 16. And Eric said, "Chid, do me a favor. I know you have this thing in your head that you think you're this great entrepreneur, but like go work for somebody for a little while and just learn how things are supposed to be done. And when you're done with that, let's have another conversation about, you know, your next venture."
And I think another thing to remember, and this is something that I've really only learned in the past couple of years, is that although the problems are urgent and so important for us to address, I need to have more patience. I'm not going to solve those problems on my own. You're not going to solve those problems on your own. I'm an apprentice in all of this. You know, I'm an apprentice in life. I'm an apprentice in problem solving. I'm not going to change the world until I'm at least 65. That's my goal at this point.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org. to let us know your thoughts.
Tune into the Thom Hartmann Program, a live broadcast featuring the nation's #1 progressive talk show host. Phones open at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Free Speech TV.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
At 33 minutes after the hour on a Friday morning, May 23rd, The Bill Press Show coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, brought to you today by AFSCME, the good men and women of AFSCME, the largest public employee and healthcare workers union in the entire country. Under President Lee Saunders, making America happen. And you can find out more about their good work at afscme.org. That's AFSCME.org. A very historic and very important event at the White House yesterday, a ceremony actually celebrating release of a postage stamp honoring the great Harvey Milk there at the White House in the South Court Auditorium yesterday afternoon. Zach Ford is the LGBT editor, for Think Progress. You know, you see Igor Volsky every Tuesday morning here, who's the managing editor of Think Progress. It's nice, Zach, that your boss allowed you to come in this morning.
Well, I would not want to infringe on one of the Bill Press listeners' favorite guests, but I appreciate the opportunity to come chat with you this morning.
Well, there is a whole group of people around the country who are called Igorians.
That's true. I could not hope to compete with that.
So we have the Zackians or
the Zack Attack.
I can only
the Zack
dream.
Pack.
I can only dream.
I like
The Zack
the
Pack.
Igorians and the Zack Pack.
Oh man,
It's on, Igor.
But this was a great. I mean, God, we have a stamp honoring a gay man. Next thing you know, they'll allow gay men and women to get married. I mean, God, what's this country coming to? But this is a big deal with the Harvey Milk stamp.
Sure. Well, I should say that he's not
Why?
the first gay man to be on a stamp, but he's certainly the first openly gay elected official to be on a stamp. And that's, part of his heritage, his legacy is that though he was not the very first, he was one of the first and certainly the most visible first openly elected official on the San Francisco Board of Supervisors. And, he really set a new precedent for what it means to be visible, what it means to really, as he always preached, shatter the closet doors and represent a movement. And, he laid groundwork for, the 6 members of the House we now have that are openly gay, and of course, Senator Baldwin in the Senate. His legacy was overdue for something as meaningful and visible as a stamp, because it's been, since 1978 that he died.
I was in California, of course, at the time. I started out, my very first job, I never met Harvey, and I really regret that I never did. By that time, I was in Sacramento, and when I was on the scene in San Francisco, he had not yet come on the scene. He might have had his Photoshop in the Castro, but I never met him. But my very first job was as an administrative assistant to a San Francisco county supervisor. So I had my little office right in that little string of office, that little office area where Harvey was assassinated by Dan White. So I know that City Hall very, very well. And Harvey had once he was larger than life kind of figure, when he was elected. He was more than just one San Francisco supervisor,
He really was, and he always said that his campaign was not about him as a person, but he lived right there in the Castro, the gay district of the city, and he specifically told people, I'm here to recruit you, jokingly, but I'm here to speak on behalf of the gay movement. And of course, not all of his work was dedicated to that. He took his job seriously and did a lot of other great things, but he tried to embody that. He tried to show people that, we weren't all perverts, that, we're just going around having lots of sex and being deviant, that we were real people living real lives, and that we deserved an equal place in society.
Well, what's the fun in that? The deviant stuff is the fun stuff. Come on.
Well, they're not mutually exclusive. That's the important thing to remember.
I was just thinking, Dan White, again, who was a supervisor, and for whatever prompted to sneak into City Hall with a gun to assassinate George Moscone and then go across and assassinate Harvey Milk. Maybe you could understand Moscone. He was the mayor, and maybe they had some feud with Moscone. But why Harvey?
I think...
Did that ever come out?
We certainly his trial, Dan White's trial, was, we had the Twinkie defense, and the fact that he got such a short sentence led to the White Night riots, which was a really significant event itself. Harvey, he assumed that he would be assassinated. There's the recording he made where he said, "This is only to be played in the event of my assassination," and he talked about what his goals were and what he expected. And I think, we're pretty far removed in terms of society from the days of Harvey Milk, but I think Dan White still embodies what we mean when we say homophobia, which is that when people have a negative reaction to people who are gay, whether they're just, they think gay sex is icky, they don't want to think about it, or, they have whatever religious beliefs they have about marriage that affects, their willingness to be accepting, there's a negative reaction that happens there. And Dan White's negative reaction and the way that he felt that he was getting unfair treatment because someone who was gay was getting equal treatment led him, among other factors it seems, to respond in such a way. And so that's why, people say, well, don't use the word homophobia, but the reason we do is because if you have one negative reaction to homosexuality, it's quite possible to have other negative reactions.
Now, you mentioned today there are, 6 openly gay members of Congress. Is that right?
The House, yeah.
Barney Frank was the first. Then there's Senator Tammy Baldwin in the Senate. But there's a slew of gay and lesbian candidates for state legislative seats, city councils, boards of supervisors, across the board today. I even read, I think there are 2 or 3 gay Republican congressional candidates.
There sure are. There are 3, yeah.
So this is all the legacy of Harvey Milk, isn't it? And, is that the focus today? I want to talk about the same-sex marriage thing in just a second, but is that the focus today for the gay movement, if you will, to support people for elective office? If I just at Mike Michaud, who's my neighbor right here on Capitol Hill, great guy, one of the 6 openly gay members of Congress, running for governor of Maine.
Sure,
he'd be the first, I believe, openly gay governor in the nation.
Yes, we've had elected gay officials in all 50 states. We've had state lawmakers in 41 states elected. Though we haven't had a governor yet, we certainly haven't had a president.
Sorry, and how many states?
41.
41, really?
State lawmakers.
Yeah.
I think it's an interesting question, though, about the priority of electing openly LGBT members. Certainly, we need more trans people elected. But in terms of openly gay, we're sort of seeing an interesting divide in the LGBT movement. We have the Gay and Lesbian Victory Fund, which is committed specifically to supporting openly LGBT candidates. But in some cases, I'm a progressive, and if I see a Republican who's openly gay and supports LGBT equality, but is, in my opinion, awful on all of the other issues, that doesn't mean that I feel like supporting him is in the best interest. Because if there's a good, contender who is liberal and agrees with me on everything else and is supportive of LGBT equality, but necessarily not gay themselves, I don't know where the best fit is. Like, do we still need more of the visibility, or would we be sacrificing, if John Boehner won't call the Employment Non-Discrimination Act up for a vote, do I want another Republican that helps keep him in power in the House, or do I want a liberal who's going to support me? So we're reaching an interesting sort of tipping point on that question. Certainly the visibility that we get from those candidates is still very important.
But I think that's an important sign of the maturity of the movement. And I think the movement is really mature, when you could vote against someone who is gay or lesbian, even though you might want to support them because they're part of the LGBT community. You vote against them because you disagree with their policies, and their sexuality has nothing to do with it.
Correct.
I mean, I do think that, and African Americans and women and others who have come up and taken their place in the American political system, if you will, a powerful place, have reached that same point.
Sure. Well, and if you think about one of the things that's made the LGBT movement so successful is our alliances. And Harvey Milk modeled this. He worked with the trade unions to help, remove beer if the beer company was discriminating against gay people. And the LGBT movement, is a great ally on immigration, is a great ally to labor. And these sort of connections show that it's not just that we're one-issue voters or that we're, our entire lives are defined. We recognize that our LGBT identities are just a part of who we are and a part of our lived experience in the country.
I have to tell you, one of the first gay support groups, if you will, was a group called MECLA in Los Angeles. I was on the board of MECLA, and we supported candidates who were gay friendly, who would support LGBT issues, that we raised money for them. Mm-hmm. Never thought about actually electing someone from the LGBT community. Never thought about a gay or lesbian candidate. It was always straight candidate who would support our issues, if you will.
And Harvey faced that same burden. Like, people didn't want to support him because they thought that having a gay candidate was too risky and would set the movement back.
And one of the toughest challenges we had was finding any Republican candidates to support, because we wanted to be bipartisan, right down the middle. And as a big Democrat, I was still on that board, active, trying to find a Republican that we could give money to, right, who would take our money and then support our issues, and how difficult it was. And that's maybe 15 years ago, but made a lot of progress since. And that was reflected yesterday in the release of the Harvey Milk postage stamp. We'll be right back. By the way, so on the issue of same-sex marriage, 2 big news states coming on board this week. Zach Ford is here from Think Progress to tell us all about it. Your questions, your comments, welcome at 866-55-PRESS. Join the conversation. We'll find a place for you at the table. Coming right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I'm the retired bishop with the Episcopal Church as the bishop for all chaplains in federal service. I read that there was a group of people that represented a sense of injustice that I had. We'd lost Zuccotti. I mean, there was a kind of a hope that maybe Trinity Church would be gracious and give refuge. We picked this day where we would gather and demonstrate that Trinity was closing its ears to what was happening. We marched around the block, and I realized that, my goodness, they're carrying a ladder. And I thought, well, this is the moment. You could feel a spiritual presence. You could feel a certain something. And then the cops came in. It got brutal.
I'm with you right here. Robin, I'm here.
The church needed, in this moment in history, to stand alongside of these protesters. The truth of Christ is found in the pews, is found in the institutional church, but it is also found on the streets. It's found in the honesty and the integrity, the insistence of people that you find in Occupy Wall Street.
Tune in to Gay USA with hosts Ann Northrup and Andy Hum for in-depth coverage of lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender news. Watch Gay USA every week, only on Free Speech TV.
Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, it's the Zach Attack. Zach Ford here from Think Progress, LGBT editor for Think Progress, in studio with us on this Friday morning of your Memorial Day weekend. So the number of states is now up to 19
yeah.
with 2 more coming on board this week. Tell us about it.
Sure. So we had our first victory this week in Oregon on Monday, where a federal judge ruled that their state's ban on same-sex marriage was unconstitutional. It was sort of a fun case to watch because nobody was supporting the ban. The Attorney General decided not to defend it.
How did the ban in Oregon, it's so weird to me that there should be a ban in Oregon of all states. Was it a popular referendum or legislative?
It would have been a referendum because it was a constitutional amendment. I think Oregon was one of the 13 or so that was part of the 2004 spate of them that people think also helped reelect
George Bush. And done for that purpose.
Yeah.
But anyhow, in Oregon, so it comes up and nobody would stand up and defend it?
Right. Well, and so what's interesting is the ruling that we got in the Prop 8 case was this technicality, which was if the state doesn't defend it, then you can intervene at the district court level, the people who originally passed it, but they don't have standing to appeal. So if they're not there at the first round, then they can't participate.
Yeah.
So no one was there for the first round this time. The National Organization for Marriage tried to intervene, but they did it at like the last minute. They filed their request like the week of oral arguments.
Yeah.
And the judge was like, no. But the other funny part is that the judge, Michael McShane, is openly gay himself. He's raising a kid with a partner. And so he was like in this weird position in the courtroom where he had to like defend the thing that nobody was defending, play devil's advocate to everybody. But he overturned it, and there's nobody to appeal. So that's it. It's over.
It's over. Yeah.
And that's a great. We now have the whole West Coast.
Right. Yeah. In the entire West Coast, and with Pennsylvania, we now have the entire Northeast. Correct?
We do. Pennsylvania's ruling came later this week.
Another federal judge.
And in this case, the federal judge was John Jones, who I'd forgotten this, but he was the same judge that ruled in the intelligent design case in the Dover School District in Pennsylvania. This was the big case where, like, can a school teach about creationism? And, the funny thing is he's the Rick Santorum recommended George W. Bush appointee.
I was about to ask whether anybody has checked in on Rick Santorum since Pennsylvania.
Speaking of Igor has been trying to harass Patriot Voices all week to get something, and Rick Santorum's been silent. Now Igor and I think disagree a little bit. Igor is convinced now that I think that Santorum has changed his tune and isn't going to talk about it anymore. I think he's just biting his tongue for a little bit. I think there's going to come a moment where he can't hold it in anymore, and we get the same sort of anti-gay stuff we're used to getting from him. But
man on dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that Rick Santorum has evolved on the gay marriage position.
No. But I think Igor's right that there's something particularly notable about his silence on the issue.
He may be embarrassed. He doesn't want right-wingers to know that, he supported this guy.
And he's rebranding himself in
what
a
I
certain way.
found even more surprising is that Tom Corbett, this disastrous governor of Pennsylvania,
don't tell me about it,
said, I know you're from Pennsylvania, that he would not appeal this.
Mm-hmm.
I think he has his eye, obviously, on his re-election chances this year.
Sure. Well, we had a poll a few months ago that found that, 55% of Pennsylvanians supported marriage equality, and actually supported a marriage equality bill, were willing to see it happen. The Attorney General, Kathleen Kane, didn't defend it, and so Corbett had to hire outside attorneys that cost $400 an hour of taxpayer money, and the state treasurer has been in the news over the past few months, attacking him for saying, why are we wasting all of this money on something that is really going to be a done deal in a few years anyway?
Let's have a quick question here from Nettie out in, oh boy, I'll never get this right.
Shiocton.
Okay, Shiocton. Duh, yeah. Shiocton, Wisconsin. Hi, Nettie. Good morning.
Good morning, Bill.
What's up?
I really have a question. I just wanted to add to the conversation.
Please.
In that we got our first trans elected official here in the state of Wisconsin at the city council in Appleton, Wisconsin.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Gypsy Meltzer.
That's fantastic.
Yes, it is. I hope the neighborhoods to get her elected.
Oh, good for you. In Appleton, Wisconsin. And what's her name?
Gypsy Meltzer.
Gypsy Meltzer. All right, we'll have to think progress on that. Maybe we can do a little item on that. Thanks, Nettie, for letting us know. So there you go.
That's fantastic.
You guys are having an impact.
Yeah,
see?
Nice.
Yeah. So I just want to ask you on the same-sex marriage thing. So what state is next?
Well, it's an interesting question. I mean, we don't really know when the courts will rule. I'm actually on pins and needles to see what the 10th Circuit has to say in Utah. We're waiting for
the...
Oh, boy.
Talk about freakouts from elected officials.
Well, if the 10th Circuit sides with the lower court and says that Utah's ban is unconstitutional, that's going to have a really big impact, because that probably is going to be one of the cases the Supreme Court considers next year. It'll be either that or the Virginia case, which we're also waiting for. But it affects a whole lot of really conservative states there in the West. So we're excited. And I also want to mention, have a quick little win in Utah, that the couples who married during the window when it was legal won a case that their marriages need to be recognized by the state even while that case plays out. So that was another great win for those 1,300 couples this week.
This train has left the station and it's not coming back. It's just great. Hey, Zach, thanks so much for coming in today.
It was a pleasure.
All right. I'm glad that we'll thank Igor for letting you come by.
Yeah, as will I.
All right.
Zach Pack.
And I'll be back to tell you what the president's up to today.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Okay, almost under our belt, 2 hours for this Friday morning. But we got a big third hour coming up. We want you to stay with us. We know we're going to lose you on Free Speech TV, so we encourage you to go over to our video stream at TawkrTV, youtube.com/Tawker, TAWKRTV, and stay with us, because in the next hour, Meredith Shiner is going to be here from Yahoo News, bring us up to date on what's happening here in the nation's capital. And there's Chris Gentilviso from the Huffington Post on the political scene of the day across the country. 2 good reasons. And me, that's 3 for staying tuned for hour number 3.
Tune into Free Speech TV for Democracy Now!, a national, independent, award-winning news program bringing you people and perspectives rarely seen on corporate media.
I probably would make a time machine. I would make medicine for the sick. I'd probably invent something new.
我会赢到5个总冠军戒指。
If I could have an extra 5 years to live.
You said 5, right?
5 years. It's a long time.
I would try to fix everything I did bad.
I would bring my uncle back because I miss him very much.
I would get more hamsters.
I would probably want to go looking for dark matter. I think I'd go looking for aliens. If I could live an extra 5 years.
I was thinking about making like a helicopter, like a wooden helicopter, but I don't have any wood.
I want to go check out the moon sometime. I'd probably teach my sister not to hate tuna.
I would try and invent a machine that lets you run at light speed.
If I had 5 more extra years to live.
I would be the boss of all the chipmunks.
Eu cantaria na frente de 1 milhão de pessoas.
I don't really know. I think I'd do anything. Why are you asking me that?
This is the Bill Press Show.
In the next hour, Meredith Shiner is here. She's now with Yahoo News. We'll cover what's happening this week in Congress with her. And then Chris Gentilviso from... I'll work on that, improve that name pronunciation over the break. From Huffington Post will be joining us as well. President Obama, after spending the night at home by himself in Chicago, will be heading back to the White House this morning. He arrives back at Andrews Air Force Base at 1:15 this afternoon. On to the White House, and this afternoon he's got a signing ceremony in the Oval Office. Jay Carney will gaggle with reporters on Air Force One, so no briefing today. We'll be back with Meredith Shiner.
This is the Bill Press Show.
California, or the Golden State, has been in the midst of a 3-year drought, and this year, some scientists predict could be the driest in 500 years. Governor Jerry Brown declared a state of emergency in January and in February of this year. The world's 10th largest economy, California is also the United States' top agricultural producer. Half of all our fruits and vegetables come from California. The Golden State is not the only place on the planet struggling for this vital resource. In December 2013, the World Resources Institute found that 37 countries face severe water shortages. Free Speech TV would love to know what you think about this fight for water, especially if you're from the Golden State. Please call our comment line at 1-888-378-8855 or email us at comments@freespeech.org to let us know your thoughts.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I'm a Piston fan. Their slogan was, we come to work. That's what Detroit about. That's why they used it. It's a team thing. They won 2 championships, a team. There was no star. No mayor can come in here and be a star. It's a team thing. No governors can come in here and think you can do it by yourself. It's a team thing. You got communities. They got ideas too. The only thing wrong with Detroit, people have lost hope here. Residents, city workers, so much corruption, they lose hope. But I grew up here. I love this city. I think it can come back. I've been working for the city 24 and a half years. Within the last 10 years, we took 4 pay cuts and then an additional 10% wage cut. I've lost a home.
When you take all of the decisions out of the city of Detroit, all of us, then what do you have? Exactly what we got, a lot of problems. Every time the city seems to fall into a problem, it's always on the backs of us workers.
You wake up out of a dead sleep and you jump behind the wheel and take off driving and try to get everybody there safe, not knowing really what you're pulling up to. Not eligible for Social Security, so the pension is my sole salary at this point.
We've been in business here 39 years. We've seen a lot of changes in Detroit. The area was a lot of industry, a lot of city workers. It's getting very tough for the city workers. It's getting tough for us as a business people.
Response times are increasing because of the closing of companies, which takes your insurance right through the roof. So all the things that affect us affect the citizens.
I worked for the city in different capacities for 29 years. I feel like an old jacket. They use me up and they throw me away. In my condition, nobody's going to hire me. I'm 68 years old. Half the times, I can't get my blood pressure medicine. It's either feeding myself blood pressure or paying bills.
754. By the time they take all the deductions for I have my car insurance, my house insurance, and my health insurance taken out. So the time they take all that, I'll get about $300 after they take all that out. I don't understand it. I can't see how the governor is allowing this to happen and what they're doing and they want to blame it all on the seniors. Not only the seniors, but the city workers. And we worked hard. I know I worked hard.
I've been in Detroit since 1946. I was 14 years old when I came in. I don't live large at all. I wish I could. I don't know when the last time I've been shopping. I only get $1,100, and I'm 81 years old. And I need every penny that I can get and that I do get. And I'm very, very upset about the idea of them taking away my pensions that I worked 30 years for. I think it's terrible that they talk about Detroit like they do, because Detroit has been very good to me.
I have a lot of city workers coming in with their uniforms on, Detroit Water Department, Police Department, Fire Department. I get a lot of people, the Border Patrol come in. So if I lose that customer base, I'm going to be in a position where I might have to close down. If they take away their pensions, if they start cutting jobs, it's going to cut into a large percentage of not only our business, but other businesses that are in the city of Detroit. We're here. We've been here for 26 years. We're still trying to do business in the city.
Detroiters are survivors. They tough. They adapt. But only can do so much when your politicians are ahead of you and we're not on the same team. We're not going to let Detroit be erased, bulldozed, or whatever. We're going to fight to the bitter end. Detroit going to survive.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, are you ready for Memorial Day weekend? It starts right now, right here on The Bill Press Show this Friday morning, May 23rd. Great to see you today, and great to see this Friday arrive. Whether you're listening on your local Progressive Talk radio station or watching on our video stream at youtube.com/TawkrTV, we welcome you to the program and look forward to hearing from you by phone at 866-55-PRESS or on Twitter at BP Show. Send us your acid comments on Twitter or on Facebook at facebook.com/BillPressShow. Our entire team here assembled, ready for the big... We were going to fire up the barbecue.
We can still fire up the barbecue. We'll fire up the grill maybe in the second half of the hour.
I wonder how my new bosses are going to feel when I just declare that Memorial Day weekend starts right now. Sorry, I did my time with my friends at Bill Press, and now the weekend is going.
All right.
We can still fire up the grill. I still have to bring it in and all that.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
We'll have it.
All right. So Peter Ogburn and Lisa Murphy, our team here.
Yeah, good morning.
And as you've heard, we are welcoming back to the show. Hasn't been here in a while, and she's changed jobs in the meantime. Meredith Shiner, now covering the Hill for Yahoo News.
Yeah,
Meredith,
and
nice to
doing
see you
a lot
again.
of political reporting and traveling. So hopefully I'll be able to come back and tell you about some.
Oh, you're going to be on the road with some of these candidates? Cool.
Some of my exploits on the road. But yeah, it's been too long. I can't change jobs again before I come back.
Oh, no.
I think I'm going to stay in this one for a while and hope that you invite me in.
Alicia Cruz here covering, got the phones covered. Alicia and Cyprian Bolding keeps us looking good, as good as we can on the video stream.
It's been a long week.
Our video, it has been a long week at this time. So President Obama, this is the theme of this week, was tourism and economy, jobs, and one thing was kind of encouraging people to come here and see all this great country of ours. And as part of that yesterday, he went up to Cooperstown, New York, the Baseball Hall of Fame. I still think this was just an excuse for him to go to Cooperstown,
So-
right? But I'm not sure how he shoehorned this into tourism. But
I have a lot of deeply held beliefs on Cooperstown. I've been once, and I'm only intending on going one more time in my life, which is this July, to see Frank Thomas, a Chicago White Sox player, inducted into the Hall of Fame. He might be the only White Sox player in my lifetime to do so I'm going to be there. But my first trip to Cooperstown was that when I was visiting colleges many, many years ago, I organized my college tour around baseball parks. And when I was in upstate New York, I was like, you know what? Let's go to Cooperstown. We're here. Let's drive. Let's go.
What team were you seeing in upstate New York?
What school?
What team?
Oh, I wasn't. I was seeing a school, but I was like, let's go to Cooperstown. So my dad didn't think that we needed to make a hotel room reservation in advance. Like, it's Cooperstown. No, we'll be there. Not true. There was a Little League tournament. Every room in the entire town was booked, except, this is the best part, the Pete Rose Suite at the Best Western. So Pete Rose doesn't have actually a place in the Hall of Fame, but at the Best Western in Cooperstown, New York, you can pay $375 a night to stay in a very large suite that smells like the high school baseball team that stayed there night before, from the beer to the stale pizza to everything. It's like, whenever you mention Cooperstown, my dad goes, Pete Rose Suite. And it's one of these things that we survive together as people. But funny. I've never seen him more offended at anything in my entire life. That not only did he have to pay that much money to stay in Cooperstown, New York, but the Pete Rose Suite was just as gross as you think it would be.
He's got his spot in Cooperstown.
It's a roll of the dice.
Yeah.
And maybe some might argue it's an appropriate place.
Yeah,
right.
Perfect.
The president mentioned that not only was he was at the Hall of Fame, he's there not only as president of the United States, but as someone who has contributed one particular item to the Baseball Hall of Fame.
At the Hall's request, I contributed something on my own, which was the jacket I wore when I threw out the first pitch at the 2009 All-Star Game.
But he's remembered mostly for that first pitch, not for the jacket he was wearing, but for the mom jeans, remember, that he was wearing. He talked about that, too.
I hear that with all the media attention about it, there was also some interest in the jeans I wore that night. But Michelle retired those jeans quite a while back.
Look, this is a constant battle I feel like wives have to deal with their husbands, is getting them to wear jeans that fit. So I kudos to Michelle for actually getting those jeans to be burned.
Poor guy
they might
goes
be.
out there. They're not worried about whether the ball went across the plate, whether you made it.
Here's the thing: I can't remember what the throw was like. Maybe it was a lousy throw.
Either.
So this was actually all a ploy.
I think I remember it being a good pitch. I do remember it being a good pitch, but I remember all anybody talked about were those mom jeans.
Were the jeans?
We have little hamster brains, don't we?
Meredith Shiner here for the first half hour with us this morning from Yahoo News, and then a little bit later, Chris Gentilviso.
You got it.
From Huffington Post will be along as well. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. From baseball to football, yesterday in the Senate Democrats, 50 of them signed a letter that they are sending to Roger Goodell, head of the NFL, urging the Washington football team to change their name. Maria Cantwell was leading that charge. She said, we're going to find out if the NFL can act against this kind of discrimination as quickly as the NBA did, citing what Adam Silver did in the Donald Sterling LA Clippers case.
There were two weird things about this to me. One, they didn't circulate the petition with Republicans.
They didn't circulate it around.
They didn't even offer it to them, and I think that there were Republicans who might have signed on. But the other thing to remember, and I can't remember if you're reading the New York Times story if it mentioned this, is that many professional sports leagues enjoy tax-exempt status. And so I think in previous comments that Maria Cantwell has made, she has threatened to have Congress review the tax-exempt status of the NFL if they do not pressure Dan Snyder to change this name.
Yeah, but that's the 50 signatures is pretty powerful. You're right. They should have had some Republicans.
Notably
I didn't realize they didn't.
Notably missing the two senators from Virginia who are Democrats.
Yeah.
Joe Manchin, because of course.
Yeah, there were five. There were
and
five.
Mark
Democrats
Pryor, I believe.
Yeah, Mark Pryor didn't.
No
sign
kidding.
It.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Joe Donnelly of Indiana was the other one.
Really?
Moving on to Illinois, you can now buy Google Glass. Anybody can buy Google Glass, so $1,500.
The question is why.
Yeah, you can. I don't suggest that you do. Well, Illinois is now taking a look at a bill to ban Google Glass while driving. So you can't be driving a car while wearing glasses. You can get pulled over and be given a ticket. It's a bill that was introduced by State Senator Ira Silverstein, and says that it's a real problem that you can't focus on your glass and driving at the same time.
I'll bet you the state after state after state's going to adopt that.
I think so. It makes sense.
It makes sense to me.
You're driving
right.
with a TV screen on your glasses. It's not a good idea.
Instead of Google glasses, you could buy little glasses like this.
They're foldable. Yeah, they're folding.
Yeah. Foldable glasses?
Yeah, Ray-Ban makes them. Yeah.
Fancy, huh?
Yeah.
I like that. Looking good. All right. Okay. All right. Let's say hello to Cassandra Fearing. She was a substitute teacher in New York City.
Oh.
She was teaching a group of fourth graders, and she was having some problems with her dating life. So she put the question to the group of fourth graders that she was substitute teaching, which man she should go out on a date with. And she was explaining, there's this guy, and then there's this guy. Who should I go?
So they then take a vote?
So they took a vote, and the fourth graders decided that one guy hadn't called her back in a couple of days, so she should go date the other guy. Well, it turns out one of the kids snitched to their parents. She's been fired, and she can no longer substitute teach in New York.
Do you know what the amazing
The kids probably enjoyed that.
Well, yeah. Also, the amazing thing is that fourth grade kids actually have better judgment and sense when it comes to like interacting with people.
Yeah. Girl, he hasn't called you back.
Correct. Than grown women.
Yes.
It makes me so mad for my people.
Thank you, Peter. Yes, indeed. So, Meredith, sometime out this week, because of some important primaries, and there were some members of Congress who were not around because they were trying to hold on to their seats, led by Mitch McConnell. Yes. Now, so he goes, tell me about this. He goes down to Kentucky and runs as an outsider, basically.
I mean, not necessarily as an outsider in this primary, but he did try to play up his conservative bona fides. And I think that it was really important for him to make sure that he was aligned with Rand Paul. I mean, this is something that you saw him start doing probably in 2011. I mean, if you remember in 2010 when Rand Paul won his primary, he wasn't Mitch McConnell's chosen candidate.
Oh, yeah.
It was this guy, Trey Grayson, who just actually recently left the Harvard Institute of Politics. But Mitch McConnell saw the writing on the wall and has been working to this point to basically fend off a primary attack. But starting Wednesday, you're going to see a general election, and it's going to be a little bit different. And the most interesting thing I found when I was talking to people is that they really pointed to Harry Reid's really tough election in 2010. Mm-hmm. Harry Reid was someone who was Sharon Ingle. Aside from the fact that Democrats there manipulated the primary, Harry Reid was deeply unpopular in Nevada and was widely expected to be the most vulnerable person that cycle.
Everybody had written the Harry Reid obituary.
And so what he did was a twofold campaign. He ran on his credentials and what he could do for Nevada, what he could bring back for Nevada. There's no one better than me to make sure that the kind of aid and legislation you need gets passed than me, because I'm the most powerful person and one of the most senior people in the Senate. And then the other part of his campaign was to make Sharon Ingle look like she was completely out of the mainstream. And granted, Sharon Ingle made that easy for him by handing him a lot of rope.
Right.
But, he made her seem completely extreme. And he actually tied her to George W. Bush, because even though George W. Bush had been out of office for 2 years, he was still very unpopular in the state, and he was the number one Republican boogeyman. So if you look at what Mitch McConnell has to do in Kentucky, it's actually a very similar playbook, even though Allison Lundergan Grimes isn't the laughingstock of her party like Sharon Ingle was.
No.
So the play is to play up what you can do for Kentucky. I mean, remember in 2008, every Mitch McConnell ad for every media market was a different earmark or project he had secured for that geographic area. So play that card, and then also try to paint Allison Lundergan Grimes as someone who is completely extreme and outside of the mainstream of where Kentuckians are. And by doing so, tying her to Barack Obama and Harry Reid, because the last consideration is the last thing that old man Republican wants to do is look like he's attacking a young female. So if you choose the proxy targets of a Barack Obama or a Harry Reid in this race, you can accuse her of being liberal and go on the attack and discredit her without looking like you are being so aggressive that you're bullying. Mm-hmm. So, you could see deviations from that basic framework, but I think that generally when you look at what the election will be until November, those are the basic contours of the race.
So he won't attack the woman, he'll attack the black man instead, which in Kentucky may be for some people, a smart strategy. But I mean, the idea,
in fairness,
the other
it's
thing,
the president of the United States, regardless of his color.
He's an African American.
That's
the
true.
other thing is that Mitch McConnell was able to paint Matt Bevins, his Tea Party challenger, as an extremist because Matt Bevins, like Sharon Engel did to Harry Reid, gave Mitch McConnell lots of ammunition, particularly the cockfighting thing. You know, it's going to be harder to paint Alison Grimes. She is no Sharon Engel.
Well,
She's
but I think what you have to argue is that
candidate.
even if
and she's run statewide. Sharon Engel was.
She's run statewide, but she's still a lot less known. I think so. The problem when you look at what Mitch McConnell is facing is that he's highly unpopular and everyone knows him. And so the other piece of the story was there's this ad maker, and he's most famous for being one of the notorious negative ad makers in the country. He was the person who was behind the Willie Horton ad, for example, was Mitch McConnell's, or not Mitch McConnell's, Mitt Romney's Super PAC's ad person. But the story that never gets told about him, or rarely gets told about him, is that in blue states, he does a lot of positive ads for Republicans. So, for example, he did Mark Kirk's ads in 2010 in Illinois.
Right.
To take Barack Obama's seat. So one of the media consultants that I talked to had expected to see a few positive ads crafted by this ad maker for Mitch McConnell to try to move that baseline of negatives. But there's a lot less wiggle room there. And so his only real play is to try to discredit Alison Lundergan Grimes. And because she's a little less known, despite the fact that she's been elected statewide. And it is going to be harder. I mean, Democrats are very confident in her candidacy. But I think to date, you haven't seen her speak as often. You haven't seen her out. She's done a lot of fundraising. And to be honest, she didn't go up on the air until last week. She had just launched her second statewide ad this week. And if you've looked at successful races by candidates like her, Tammy Baldwin in Wisconsin over Tommy Thompson is a really good example of this. She went up on the air extraordinarily early while the primary was still playing out, and Tommy Thompson didn't have money to go up on the air. And for a good solid 5 or 6 weeks, she was defining herself to an entire state. And for whatever reason, Alison Lundergan Grimes chose not to do that. And it's baffled many Republicans, but it certainly baffled a few Democrats as well.
All right, so the race is on now. Mitch McConnell, Alison Lundergan Grimes in Kentucky. One other big event in Washington this week in the Congress is that Democratic leader Nancy Pelosi in the House decided to appoint Democrats after all, and there was some question whether or not she would, to the Special Committee on Benghazi. Meredith, I want to get your take on that. Why? There were some powerful Democrats who were encouraging her not to appoint anybody. Why she appointed five
people, not just one symbolic person.
Give us a backstory there when we come back. And if you have any questions or comments for Meredith or me, 866-55-PRESS. Meredith Shiner from Yahoo News. It's yahoo.com. Right? Got it. We'll be right back.
This is the Bill Press Show.
Don't look at me. Your hair's a bit frizzy today. Oh, you should pick that up. Oh, you're such a dork, loser. Here, let me help you with that. Oops.
Every day, kids witness bullying.
Oh, look. Your crush is looking at you. Poor you.
They want to help, but don't know how.
See, no one here's gonna help you, because no one
Teach your
likes
kids how to be more than a bystander. Visit stopbullying.gov.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Nothing kills a buzz like getting pulled over for buzz driving, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When some people struggle with their mortgage payments, they become frozen, petrified. Not knowing what to do, they do nothing. But the people who take action are far more likely to get the most positive outcome. Making Home Affordable is a free government program. Call now to talk one-on-one with a housing expert about the options that are right for you. Real help, real answers, right now.
Here at the GED Pep Talk Center, we have pep talkers standing by to get you motivated for your GED diploma. Text the name Terry to 69222 for a sympathetic pep talk.
You show people what you really are.
Or for a gentle pep talk, text the name Deborah.
You know you're going to make people very proud of you.
And if that's not enough, text the name Danny for an extreme pep talk.
Prove everyone wrong. Show them you're the boss.
Get your GED pep talk and find free GED classes. Text the name of the person you want a pep talk from to 69222.
Did you see the world differently? Did you celebrate the victory?
So today, I state clearly and with conviction America's commitment to seek the peace and security of a world without nuclear weapons.
Did you stand up against our greatest threat? Change the world.
This is the Bill Press Show.
We'll talk more politics with senior political editor for Huffington Post, Chris Gentilviso, in the next half hour. Right now, delighted to have Meredith Shiner back in the studio with us.
You just got the approving glance from Peter Ogburn.
That Gentilviso? I've been working on it.
He's never going to know. He's just going to come in. It's going to be like...
But you don't know. The new thing is that Elisa and Peter, every day, they schedule somebody whose name I can't pronounce, who has an unpronounceable last name. You know, it's a test.
You're doing wonderfully, Bill.
You're doing a great job. All right, look, we got to keep you fresh.
You know,
I might have a future. I might have a future as a talk radio host.
Most people just have to struggle silently with the crossword puzzle, and they're doing this to you on air.
Yeah,
and I think you're handling
right.
it with grace.
So, when John Boehner announced that he was going to appoint a special committee to investigate Benghazi because Darrell Issa has not had enough hearings yet on Benghazi, the big question was, would Democrats participate or not? James Clyburn was sitting right there where you are a couple of weeks ago, and he said he has advised and suggested strongly to Leader Pelosi that they appoint no Democrats to it. Why did she decide to appoint 5?
Yeah, I think, look, there was an internal battle, and this has been going on for weeks, whether or not to appoint anyone. And there were different stories leaking out of Democratic leadership and Democratic world in the House. Well, let's not appoint anyone at all. Let's appoint one person to be symbolic. Let's appoint a full slate of people. And the questions were, how much information will the Republicans actually get that's new? How much would they share with the Democrats on the panel? And if there were no Democrats at all, would Republicans basically just be able to say whatever it is that they wanted and then have that clipped and shown on Fox News? Mm-hmm. And so the basic tension was, do we dignify this practice by participating in it? Or do just we say, we think this is a political farce and we will have no place in it? And I think that there are probably still Democrats that disagree after this decision has been made. But I think,
for sure,
I think what Nancy Pelosi decided was it's better to have people who are going to fight the Republicans and not give them those clips than to let them just say exactly what it is they wanted. And I think if you look at the people she appointed, she didn't appoint backbenchers who were wallflowers.
Right.
I mean, she appointed serious people in her caucus. I mean, she put Cummings there, and he and Issa obviously had that fight in their oversight committee a few weeks ago. It'll be TV, I guess. But Democrats will participate in it.
Yeah, it's going to be wild. Meredith, thanks so much for coming in. Great to see you again.
Thank you for having me. It was so much fun.
Right.
Of course.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Pressing dot. I want you to just push the battery.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. You know, I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
Press Show.
All right, 33 minutes after the hour. Friday morning, Memorial Day weekend starts right here. Well, in a half hour it does, at any rate. We are coming to you live from our nation's capital, brought to you today by the International Association of Sheet Metal, Air, Rail, Transportation Workers. Add those up and you get the SMART Union, the good men and women of the SMART Union under President Joseph Nigro, giving a fair day's work for a fair day's pay. You bet. And you can find out more about their good work at their website, smart-union.org. So as we were just talking, Washington is gearing up for special hearings on Benghazi. And you know they're gearing up for a whole series of special hearings and more media attention on the Veterans Administration. What's going on the political front here? Matt Gentilviso from Huffington Post is the senior politics editor joining us in studio this morning. Hi, Matt. Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me, Bill.
Did I get that, Gentilviso?
Chris Gentilviso.
Chris, I'm sorry. No, but Chris. I was focused on the last name so much that I screwed up the easy first name. Oh, man.
He's been nailing the first name all morning, so we've been good there.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Good to see you.
Likewise.
And all of our good friends at Huffington Post. You know, Arthur Delaney is in every morning, every Tuesday morning.
And he's in every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday morning with us. So he's he's just the lifeblood of our office, always keeping it fun.
Oh, I don't know whether we want to hear that. Don't give him any credit here because we just give him a hard time. So let's talk a little bit about the VA. Is this a serious issue for the Obama administration, or is it just another right-wing invented conspiracy?
Well, it's unquestionably a serious issue when you look at the impact that it's having on the veterans who suffered through this, the people who are on the ground in Phoenix who knew what was going wrong with this facility, and who, put in requests, and alerted people. And you have, people back here in Washington who are cooking the books, and you've got to question, well, where's the oversight? The problem is that in most cases, as we saw yesterday on your show, we have veterans who think that Shinseki has brought the VA to, great points. And this is not something that's been new, in terms of the issues that we have. And it exposes a real problem when, we have people who are coming home overseas who are just, shredded both physically and mentally in these conflicts, and they can't get the type of health care that they need at the facility where they're supposed to have it. So from that standpoint, it's a huge problem for the Obama administration.
Right. It's just, it's so complicated. And I'm one of those in my column today, which is now posted or soon will be on our website at billpressshow.com. Is that Shinseki ought to go. Maybe, he wasn't the guy out in Phoenix who was making these decisions, but it happened on his watch. But it's still complicated because you're right. There are more and more people in the system now, which means the VA has more pressure than ever before. There have been problems at the VA forever.
Right.
President Obama, as a senator and as president, did make Veterans Affairs a real priority of his. And under him and Shinseki, they've made vast improvements in the VA, expanding benefits to 2 million veterans who never had them before. They have cut the backlog for disability claims in half. So there's all kinds of good stuff. But then you've got this story of, as you say, cooking the books in Phoenix and perhaps other places too, where they kept a secret list of people who are waiting for appointments. And then they moved them to the open list when there was or the official list rather, when there was an opening, so that they could always meet the goal and nobody had to wait more than 2 weeks for an appointment.
2 weeks, no big deal.
And then they got bonuses for meeting the 2-week deadline. So when you have that happening, Jesus, what was going on?
And as you know, a taxpayer, I don't have the right to say I'm going to stop paying my taxes and having these people get their bonuses. So there's a conflict in the sense that, and this goes to a larger issue of healthcare in this country. We have people who are supposed to be, Obama's the president who said we're going to bring our troops home. And I think one thing he has been able to do is always separate himself from being a campaigner and commander-in-chief in terms of the rhetoric. He's a very sensitive guy to the rhetoric. And the problem is that, anything you say can and will be held against you in a political ad.
Absolutely.
In this type of era. And, I think the, madder than hell comment is relevant because that's about as far as you can go, at least verbally, before giving the investigation its full due. And if Shinseki goes tomorrow, 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now, if it lines up with what the investigation showed, then I think that will happen. But the problem is that in the heat of the moment, there can't be something that's said where 1 second you see, we're going to bring our troops home, we're going to bring our troops home, and then the administration has this black eye of, we couldn't provide them the health care when they came home.
Yeah, I understand that the president, I would fire Shinseki. I understand that the president says, I want to get all the facts first before I act. I want this investigation to be complete. I want to see exactly what happened. I just don't think they can let that investigation go on and on and on. They've got to get it over with and move fast.
Right, and the longer they wait, this is why you have representatives like a David Scott, down in Georgia, who are bringing the type of intensity we're looking for from Obama, because he's got Fort Gillem within 20 minutes of his district, and there's a little bit different perspective on the ground when you go back home and have to answer to people. Who are suffering through these types of situations.
Again, Chris Gentilviso with us from Huffington Post. Your comments and questions, you can always join the conversation at 866-55-PRESS. Attention this week back to drones, thanks to Rand Paul and the nomination to the First Circuit of David Barron, who is a man at the Justice Department who wrote the memo authorizing the use of drones for killing machines. Barron was confirmed.
Yes, it was.
Rand Paul used this as an issue to raise once again this question of what are we doing about these drones?
Right, and I think it was the opening of a political envelope in classic fashion, because you have this polarizing nominee who's putting out this type of you can say this is the man who wrote this. We need to find out why drones are being used, and it's especially pertinent. I mean, we just had 80 troops sent to Chad, to deal with the Boko Haram situation. We also brought a drone in order to do that.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know that, but
yes, we did.
But that's a good use of drones.
Right.
If they can find those girls with that drone, amen.
So the issue is, though, and this has continued to happen as the course of, tied with, we're going to end our wars. Well, another part of the Obama administration has been, we're going to not have this perpetual state of counterterrorism anymore. And then the problem is, well, how do we then reconcile our use of drones in these countries? Is it something that, we can continue? Stanley McChrystal came on, HuffPost Live this week, and he says they're here to stay. Unmanned aircraft has been used for as long as we've had the technology, and it's not going anywhere. But the thing that we need to focus on is the perception that surrounds it. So I think that's the conversation and the Obama administration is equally committed to Rand Paul is, without having to have a 13-hour filibuster about it. But it's something that I think this particular nomination really brought to the forefront.
Well, the president promised at one point that he was going to lay out for the American people kind of what the rules were impacting drones, when we use them and when we don't, and why we have to use them. Have we ever heard that, or have we ever seen that yet?
Well, I think we've heard it on, there have been cases where we've been forced to hear about it. In the case of, Anwar al-Awlaki, we've had cases where, there's been issues that have now come into our own borders when you have a situation with the FAA where, we almost had a drone. I think the problem with this policy is that no matter how well you lay out the rules, we don't know in this 21st century use of these technologies what types of cases are going to come forth. I mean, no one, I don't know what's going to happen. I didn't know that, we were going to have a situation where hundreds of girls were going to be kidnapped in Nigeria. And I think it gets back to we're really having to adjust quickly to the paralleling our technology with our foreign policy.
Right.
And that goes to everything. Cyber spying, it can be anything.
Right. It seems to me there would be no question about drones if they were being used to monitor weather situations.
Right.
To give storm warnings, to look for potential for forest fires flaring up. Right. In search and rescue operations, in finding kidnapped girls in Nigeria, any of those uses, right, which we're seeing more and more of, right, police chases and all that kind of stuff. It's for the use of drones for killing American citizens or even people we perceive to be enemies of the United States around the world. even in other countries where we are not at war, like maybe Pakistan?
Sure.
Those are the unanswered questions, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's going to come another point where we're going to have some type of terror situation where even if we spell out that, these are not going to be used for unjustified killings of civilians overseas, how are you going to guarantee with, the way we had to raid the bin Laden compound that a situation like that's not going to happen again and there aren't going to be innocent bystanders?
No, you can't. It's just where the technology has advanced so far forward, I think, and the policy is yet to catch up with the technology here. All kinds of important issues to talk about with Chris Gentilviso here from Huffington Post. Again, we'll be taking a quick break. Come back, 866-55. We're going to fire up the barbecue when we come back.
We'll fire up the grill when we get back.
All right. We've waited a long time.
You got it.
To
get
a
long winter.
Yeah.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday as well. Right back on the Bill Press Show.
This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek,
Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
Enough.
Enough. Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act. Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 None of us would want to be told we can't marry the person we love. As Americans, we believe in freedom. That's what I fought for as a Marine, and that's what we believe in as Republicans. Freedom means freedom for everyone. I didn't used to understand the importance of same-sex marriage, but after learning my brother was gay, I wanted the same rights for him. He was the best man at my wedding, and I want to be the best man at his. It's only fair that Calvin should have the freedom to marry the person he loves, too.
It's time for marriage.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, at 13 minutes before the top of the hour on Friday morning, May 23rd, the Bill Press Show coming to you live from our nation's capital. Chris Gentilviso is here in studio with us from Huffington Post. Who says it's a bad and a hard last name to pronounce?
You got it. Beautiful last name. It means nice face. I've fought my whole life to try to fit that.
And I've been nailing it every just
100%.
about every time here. Good.
A+.
And we know what you're thinking about this weekend. It is Memorial Day weekend. This is the beginning of the barbecue season. I now turn it over.
Look out behind you, because we got the grill in the studio now.
Okay, all right.
So
turn it over to Peter Ogburn here.
Well, we got to make sure, because we haven't lit it all season long. It's been a long winter.
It takes
so put a lot of the starter on it.
You need a lot of that juice.
Spray a lot of that on the charcoal there.
Oh, Peter.
Let's put one more. It's been a while. It's been a long time.
I don't know.
Do you have the matches?
Yeah, I got the matches.
You have the matches.
Yeah.
Just throw a match on there then.
All right. Ready?
I can't get
1,
it.
2,
It's
3.
not working.
No?
It's not. There you go. Here we go. The grill's on now.
Summer has officially begun.
It is.
All right, here we go. Yes, throw another shrimp on the Barbie, huh? Okay, very good. Good job, Peter. Speaking of barbecue, Texas. There's a segue. Texas. Wendy Davis already under attack, right? I mean, this is brutal.
Yeah, I mean, we've gone Hollywood. We had a Star Wars attack ad that came out yesterday from the Abbott campaign, warning that she was taking our freedoms out of the galaxy.
Get out,
issues
really?
with gun rights, taxes. But the funny part about it is that the ad starts off once in a liberal land far, far away. Now, the irony of that is for Greg Abbott's camp, the polls show that he's got a double-digit edge. We're about 6 months away from the election. He's doing fine in the polls. But I think that his campaign recognizes that no matter how local this race gets, Wendy Davis is the way she rose to have the opportunity. She is a national figure.
Yeah.
And any misstep, in any type of head-to-head competition is going to be recognized on a national level. So for the moment, they actually have 2 debates scheduled on statewide TV, and Davis challenged him to try to do 6 this week, and he respectfully declined. So there's a sense that I think no matter, there are really different issues that these 2 candidates are trying to push within one of the largest states in the country. Greg Abbott is someone who, with that Star Wars ad, is talking about, I'm going to defend gun rights. I'm going to, watch out for your taxes, classic conservative viewpoints. But Wendy Davis is out there going, I'm going to fight for equal pay and I'm going to protect your abortion rights. So it's really an example of how polarized a state like Texas Democrats are hoping it will become.
Right.
In that there's this focus. And regardless of whether the DGA thinks it's a race that's worth it or not, she's capable of having that national impact.
I think she's a powerful figure, and she certainly does have a national profile now. And I think it's only a matter of time before Texas becomes blue again. And this may be the year. If anybody can do it, she can. Speaking of Texans, Julian Castro, another rising star from Texas, now moving to Washington. Good move for him?
I think
first of all, he's coming as the new secretary, not yet official, right?
Yeah, that's been, there have been reports out, from the White House that we might even see, I think, something as soon as today. But for him, I think it is a good move in the sense that, as a Latino candidate who I think, had the opportunity to follow, Obama in terms of the opportunity he had to be on a national stage in 2012, at the Democratic convention. And then on the flip side, knowing that, it's very hard to hit the national waters without having that governor or senator opportunity. And in Texas, this is a situation where I think Wendy Davis kind of took the lantern, at least for this cycle, in terms of the governor's race.
Yeah.
And in terms of trying to run for Senate, I think his time can be better spent than going up against Cornyn or Cruz and having to wait. Right. And I think this gives him an opportunity to, get into the fabric of what's going on here. And, for as much as, he was going to have the opportunity in San Antonio, it was only a matter of time to really seize on this.
Mayor of San Antonio, soon to be named by President Obama. The White House has now, I think, confirmed that he will be named as the next Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. I was just checking while you were speaking. I haven't seen an announcement today from the White House, but there could very well be a personnel announcement. The president's back at the White House at 1:15 this afternoon. And finally, I just want to ask you, Tea Party. Tea Party got a shellacking on Tuesday. Do you follow that narrative and believe that narrative that this was a big win for establishment Republicans?
Well, I absolutely don't, in the sense that the narrative that comes out of John Boehner's mouth this week is that we're all this. It's all tea to me. We're all the same, and I think it's a fascinating narrative to follow because there are two choices here for how people are going to interpret this. There are going to be the people who say, well, we knew this all along. Conservatives are finally showing their true colors. They are just as radical as the Tea Party. The established, there is no blurring. And then the other side is establishment Republicans trying to step in and cover, cases where we don't have the Todd Aikens anymore out there. We're not going to have these types of concerns. We're going to have people who are going to be more sturdy. For this cycle.
I think you're right. I think this difference between the Tea Party and the establishment is not as real as some people are trying to make it. They're all one and the same. All Tea Party to me, too. Hey, Chris, great to see you. Thanks so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Huffington Post, HuffingtonPost.com, and I'll be back, wrap things up with today's parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show.
This is my computer.
This is your computer. Let's go on the internet.
Let's go. Click it.
Yes.
Okay.
I cursor in between the R and the E. Racing dot. I want you to just push the period.
She's gonna love me all over again.
That's it. Jamaica, here you go.
Here we go.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you. And I did it by myself. Feel smarter.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Hey, thanks for stopping by. I followed your character since the first episode. I'm a big fan. Big fan.
Thank you.
And listen, your storyline, it makes for incredible TV drama. Thing is, your drug use is very adult content. Too adult for the kids. So I'm gonna have to block you.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Well, have a good one.
You're a nice lady.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is the Bill Press Show.
Well, there's no doubt that President Obama is committed to raising the minimum wage. There's only one problem. While preaching how important it is to raise the minimum wage for all low-wage workers, the White House continues to pay its interns zero. not $10.10 an hour, no, not even $7.25 an hour, zero, which totally contradicts the president's message about taking care of low-wage workers. Now, to be fair, the White House says on its website that interns will not be paid, but still, this means that the only kids who can qualify for a White House internship are those whose parents are wealthy enough to pay the cost of their spending a year or a summer in Washington, D.C. So my advice is to President Obama, he should practice what he preaches and pay his White House interns a minimum wage. That's it, folks. Have a great Memorial Day weekend. See you next week.